include a product that would include nuclear power. I am opposed to this council adopting any product for the electricity consumed by the city, or which you might designate as the default for the city's ratepayers, which includes nuclear power. To be perfectly clear, I do not support anything which ties the city of Hayward into nuclear power, and I believe there are thousands of residents of Hayward who are similarly opposed to anything which ties the city of Hayward in any way into nuclear power. Even if you have to pay a premium of a few $1,000s a year for the city's own electricity in order to avoid entangling yourself in PG&E's ill-fated, expensive romance with nuclear power, that premium would last only 2 or 3 years, since one of the Diablo Canyon reactors is scheduled for decommission in 2024 and the other in 2025. The residents of Hayward have not had time to fully explore all the ramifications of your entangling us with nuclear power. But we want you to be aware that many of us are on alert about this proposal, and that if you pursue it, you'll experience a substantial number of us who will be resisting such a drastic move. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have the next speaker. Madam City Clerk, you're muted.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The next number starts with area code 510, and the last 3 digits are 404. So if you could please go ahead and press star 9 to unmute yourself, and go ahead. Sorry, star 6 to unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Claire Dugan. I'm a Hayward City resident for over 30 years. I'm calling in just to state that I fully support the Hayward Police Department, and I'm completely against any kind of decrease in their budget. I thought that meeting was going to be tonight, so I'm wondering maybe at the end of this, if somebody can tell me, I guess that meeting where you vote on the funding has been changed. I'd like to get the date of that. But I just think I really appreciate the police who have helped our neighborhood watch meetings. They've been very accommodating when we were able to have them and coming and really informative for the people who were there. But there's no doubt that in my neighborhood, crime has increased. My neighbor last week had hit the same car stolen for the second time. We know that there are gangs of car thieves that operate in Hayward. And I don't think anybody, especially the working guys who have to park on the street or in the apartment complexes carports, nobody's vehicle is safe in the city of Hayward. And the guys who have their work trucks and their tools stolen because they don't have a way to park securely, you know, that is just a shame. And I do believe it's the council's responsibility to keep the citizens of Hayward safe. And if you know, however you manage to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, can you make sure we have this caller's telephone number and name so that, and concern about the meeting that she wants, the discussion of the police department, and that we can have somebody on staff get back to her about that?
Mayor, I can, if you would like me to, I can just make a brief.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead then? Yes, thank you.
So right now we are planning to come back to council on tentatively October 27th at that council meeting. And there won't be any specific budget recommendations at that point, but that will be the first report back on the community engagement process that the council discussed in July. So that is our tentative timeline right now. So October 27th will be that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jessica Guadalupe Tovar. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, Jessica Tovar, coordinator of the East Bay Clean Power Alliance, and I also work for an organization called the Local Clean Energy Alliance. And I do want to let the council know that we are truly opposed to accepting PG&E's nuclear energy in our East Bay Community Energy Program. Should Hayward pursue accepting nuclear energy, that would actually tarnish the reputation of the entire East Bay Community Energy. At this point, your program is nuclear free. The intent was to jumpstart a clean energy future through a clean energy community choice program. It's very problematic. It's a violation of environmental and climate justice principles. To accept nuclear energy would actually shift burdens onto communities. If you're not aware, the waste is oftentimes dumped in indigenous communities. We're also talking about a nuclear plant that is slated to close. It's the last in the state of California. San Onofre was shut down abruptly because of a leak. It is a threat on various levels to the environment, to the community, and to the workers. And it doesn't go away once you dump it wherever you dump it. It has a long life. We shouldn't be locking ourselves into the next generation of nuclear energy. We should not be bailing out PG&E by taking their excess nuclear that has no market at this time. You can't even sell it because nobody wants it. If you're not aware, most community choice programs in the state of California have rejected nuclear energy and have gone as far as to create a policy to ban any acceptance of nuclear moving forward. It absolutely makes no sense that East Bay Community Energy would consider this. I really urge the Hayward community to not pursue nuclear energy in your clean energy program. That is not the vision for a just transition. This is a false solution to climate change. When you shift burdens onto other people, it is not just. It is not clean. What we need to do is create local clean energy infrastructure in all of Alameda County and City of Tracy. That is how you do a local Green New Deal. It does not include nuclear. Nuclear displaces creating those jobs and that infrastructure and the wealth that this county needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ernie Pacheco. Please go ahead and mute yourself. Unmute. So we have Ernie Pacheco.
Thank you. The unmute button just popped up. Hey, hello, Ernie Pacheco. At this point, I think I'm a 26 or 27 year Hayward resident, so I consider myself a native now. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I am going to speak in opposition to something that Hayward has done and is considering doing. So I want to give very briefly a little bit of where I'm coming from, especially when you speak in opposition. It's good for people to know. Back in 2007, I began meeting with then current mayor and city council members, city managers, and senior city staff about Hayward forming a community choice aggregation, with the point being of lowering our greenhouse gas emissions, doing local development, and addressing climate change. In 2008, I came to the city. I did research on grants, came to the city, and brought them the opportunity to get funding for the climate action plan and for an analysis on forming a community choice aggregation program based around greenhouse gas reductions. The city did take the money to do its climate action plan. It did not choose to try to get the monies for the CCA analysis at that time. During the formation of the climate action plan, I argued for inclusion of the CCA to be a primary mechanism for Hayward to do greenhouse gas reduction with the emphasis on local development. In the years since, I and many others lobbied the county to form a CCA with an emphasis on greenhouse gas reduction. I was on the formation committee and spoke for maximum greenhouse gas reduction. I'm currently on the community advisory committee, and I speak out for maximum greenhouse gas reduction and local development. I say all of that to say that what we found out about on Friday, the city has asked EBCE to consider, which is a third option, including nuclear power, under the noble and completely understandable desire to not raise our greenhouse gas reductions. I say that is someone who has spent thousands of hours working as a volunteer to enact policy in my community, in Hayward, and in Alameda County to actually address climate change. This is bad policy. There's a lot of problems with it. It's well-intentioned, I understand. We don't have time to go into all the details of what's wrong with it, but there is a path forward. There's multiple paths forward. So I and others will be reaching out to the city council members individually over the next few weeks to go into more depths about what the problems with this proposal is. Again, well-intentioned, and about some alternative paths forward to address what the problem is that the PCIA charge, the unjust, unfair PCIA charge, has been raised so much that now under the Brilliant 100 option, we find ourselves where our citizens would have to pay more for the same greenhouse gas level product. That's not our fault, but there are other options. Accepting Diablo Canyon's allocation would permanently take us out of the fight of addressing the underlying issue, which is the PCIA charge. So I'll stop there because it gets into the weeds immediately, and I'll be following up with you. I and others will be following up with you in the next few weeks to talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments, Madam City Clerk?
No additional speakers, Madam Mayor.
All right. I'm
Pacheco's the
going
last
to
one.
ask if now. Okay, so I'm going to close public comment for now, and just ask if
Mayor Halliday, I'm sorry. There is an additional individual who just was for him. That's Ida Alvarez. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, sorry for the delay on that. I just wanted to make a comment and just voice my concern. I'm a tenant at Bridgecourt. I've been living here for about 11 years. This is part of the 238 corridor, and I do understand that the city of Hayward is proposing an idea to work with a developer. And I just want to make sure, and I'm just hoping and praying, and that there is some consideration that there are tenants that have been living here for many, many years, and that we would like to have some type of, housing that's offered to us that is affordable, once again, but that it's not really associated with anything that involves, a land trust if it involves any of us having ownership. And the reason why I say that is because I'm a single mother and I'm struggling to live here in the Bay Area. And, I just would like to make sure that people do understand. And it seems like, with this property, a lot of people at the city of Hayward aren't very, doesn't seem like no one knows that there are tenants that still live here when the property was taken over by Caltrans. And it just seems like, we've been ignored. And, it would be greatly appreciated if we could get a little bit more attention in regards to this and just, have a little bit of decency and compassion for humanity. And that, when you tell us one thing, that you're not going to displace any of the residents, and then you turn around and you say another thing that there's no guarantee that you're going to displace us. We would like to be given, the correct, accurate information. It doesn't have to happen right away, but we do really need some type of consistency with the information that we're receiving. And it is, once again, it's long overdue. And there are some individuals at the city of Hayward that do know what I'm speaking about. And even with this meeting, I have no clue on even what the closed session was about. What was it? Anything that was brought up about RCD taking over the property? I have no clue. And then we get a letter in the mail yesterday with the link to this meeting. And I honestly don't even know what the meeting was about. That was a closed session. So, I just hope that is taken into consideration. And
all right.
thank you.
So do we have Ms. Alvarez's phone number, and can we have someone from the city staff get in touch with her tomorrow or soon to,
And Mayor, I believe that Ms. Alvarez was speaking on its consent item, calendar item 8. So I want to be careful that we're not.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and yes, staff will absolutely follow up with her,
Okay.
and explain the action. There was no action on the Caltrans properties during closed session tonight. It's
No, and yes. All right, and then I wanted to also ask if either our Public Works Director, Mr. Ameri, or our council representative on Councilmember Mendel, our representative to East Bay Community Energy, wanted to just briefly update the status of that, or when we might be discussing that issue regarding the use of nuclear power as part of our energy mix. I'm not sure myself what the status is. I know and we had a work session, but Councilmember Mendel, are you?
Sure. Just briefly, I don't have the exact date, but I know that it's coming to the Sustainability Committee, I want to say October 5th, for a discussion, perhaps a recommendation to council. And then it will come to the full council for decision at some point after that in the October to November timeframe.
For those of you who are interested in that issue, please check the website or presumably you get agendas. Watch for that, either the next meeting of the Council Sustainability Committee and probably then a subsequent meeting sometime later in October of the full City Council for further discussion of that issue. Councilmember Marquez?
I have the date of the next meeting. It's actually Thursday, October 15th at 5 p.m.
That's the Sustainability Committee?
Yes.
Okay, so watch for that agenda.
Thank you for the correction.
And that's also an opportunity for any of you who want you to comment on that issue. So with that, Madam City Clerk, was there anyone else who wanted to make a public comment?
So I'm showing that there are 2 individuals requesting to speak, and I just want to confirm that this is for public comment and not the consent calendar. So if that is the case, then I'm going to go ahead and call the next speaker, whose phone number starts with 510 area code, and the last 3 digits 600. Please go ahead and unmute. Can you hear me? Okay. Go ahead and start 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Luther. I'm a block captain of a neighborhood block group here in Hayward. I live in the house I grew up in, and I realize I'm commenting on issues that aren't part of this meeting, but I wanted to make my voice heard that I am totally against defunding the Hayward Police Department. We have so much crime happening here in Hayward, and I know you're all aware of it with the protests, and protests are okay, but riots and looting is not. And the police department's hands are tied. The police, they have no one backing them up. And I just want to say that we all need our police enforcement and our police officers here in our neighborhood. And another thing, I'm not a political person, but I've become so in the last couple of years, but not on a huge level. But I don't know how to fix things. And I'm aware that Proposition 47 has created a problem for all of us here in California. And does anyone have any advice on how to repeal that or turn that around or get rid of it? Because it's created nothing but problems. And I understand that the proposition has allowed, or the state receives funds, and the city and state receives funds from the jails and prisons because of Prop 47. And I'm sure the state and the city doesn't want to give up those funds, but I think that we can all see that this has become a huge problem, turning felonies into misdemeanors. Nobody cares. They don't care what crime they commit because it's now a misdemeanor. They may think about it later on in their lives when they're trying to live a real life, but they don't care about it now. And I think it's a huge thing that we need to turn that proposition around. And does anyone have any advice on that? Because I don't know how to do it. And I just want to, again, state that I am for HPD and I am against defunding HPD. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think that's a discussion that we can actually get into tonight, but I think the council's heard your comments.
All right.
You might want to try an email and see what responses you get to that. Okay. Madam Secretary, is it
the next speaker, Jenna Feeney? Please go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you for hearing me. I'm also a resident of Bridgecourt, and I am concerned about the whole development of this area. I've been living here for over 25 years, and I'm just wondering if there's been any environmental impact studies done, or I live right underneath the hill that you guys want to develop and turn into a part of the park. And I'm just wondering, there's a lot of wildlife here, and I'm just wondering if anyone's done any kind of studies or environmental impact for this area, including traffic on Grove Way.
Again, I'll ask the city manager. Is that it? Do you want to have someone on staff get back to?
So we'll get in touch with Ms. Feeney, but the item that is on the agenda tonight is simply the preliminary agreement with a potential developer for the site. There will be future actions that will potentially look at both the environmental impacts of any project and development, and those will be considered in the future. So that process hasn't even started yet.
It was, can you hear me? It was my understanding that you guys are making your decision tonight. In fact, I just received a letter yesterday in the mail that you guys are having a meeting tonight, and it kind of did not give us a lot of notice to prepare for it.
So again, tonight's conversation is simply to select a preferred developer for the site. There's not any final action on the project. There will be multiple steps in the process as we move forward.
Yeah, the feedback. I'm going
to ask that we can't really have a discussion about this. So we're going to have a staff member contact you after this meeting or tomorrow or sometime later to let you know what the status is and when that will be coming back for more definitive action. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That was the last individual wishing to speak.
Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and close public comments. And thank you, everybody, for your patience. And again, people who have questions about these things, please feel free to email the mayor and city council, and we'll get somebody, to get back to you with more information about some of these concerns. So with that, we're going to move on.
And Mayor Halliday, I'm sorry if I may. Individuals wishing to contact the city of Hayward are welcome to call the city clerk's office at 510-583-4400 in case because I know with this platform, we don't have the ability to connect with the speakers, but if they need to get a hold of the city, they're welcome to call the city clerk's office at 510-583-4400. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, please do contact either by email or by phone the city clerk's office or the mayor and council's office. And in a regular city council meeting in our chambers, we would probably have been connecting some of you to staff members who could have gone out in the hallway and talked to you personally, but we're in a different kind of world right now. So we're going to try to do our best to follow up on some of these questions later. Okay. Thank you. And with that, we are going to move on to our action items this evening. And our first one is something that I think makes us all very happy. One of the things that the council has done since our last formal city council meeting was that at the end of July, we met and interviewed and selected new members for our boards and commissions. And so we are going to we are not going to swear them in tonight, as we would usually have done had this meeting been in the council chambers, but our city clerk, Ms. Lenz, who sort of oversaw that whole process of the applications and interviews and selection, has a report to make to us about that process this evening. And I think we have, from what I can see, many newly appointed commissioners joining us this evening. So, Ms. Lenz?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, good evening to all our attendees. The item before you, and as projected on the screen, as the Mayor mentioned, refers to the annual recruitment and reappointment process for city commissions and the Keep Hayward Clean and Green Task Force. As a way of background, the annual recruitment was conducted from April 14th through June 30th. And all pertinent information was disseminated via water bill inserts, an ad on the newspaper, and various social media channels. By the application submission deadline, we had received 102 applications, and 92 applicants had qualified to be considered by the City Council. On July 7th, during a special work session, the City Council reviewed requests for reappointment as well as an attendance report. During that meeting, the City Council also approved the process for pre-selecting applicants and also accepted the recommendation from the Keep Hayward Clean and Green Task Force Subcommittee, which included 14 applicants who had selected the task force as their number one choice. By July 10th, the City Council had pre-selected 29 applicants who were invited to interview with the City Council on July 28th via the Zoom platform. Following the interviews, the City Council selected 3 members for service on the Community Services Commission, 2 for the Library Commission, 1 for the Personnel Commission, and 1 for the Planning Commission, as you could see on the screen. As it has been the case for the last couple of years now, the council finds more qualified candidates than available seats to appoint. Therefore, the council established a list of alternates as reflected on the screen, if you could see it. These alternates would fulfill vacancies as they occurred throughout the year. In terms of next steps, as Mayor Halliday mentioned, due to COVID, the oath of affirmation will be administered virtually, and this will be to all our newly appointed and reappointed members. And this is happening on Friday, September 18th. We will have a special meeting with them to just do the swearing in for them. So in conclusion, the staff is recommending that the City Council adopts a resolution confirming 21 appointments, 3 reappointments, and 4 alternates. Mayor Halliday, that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have. And I'd like to just acknowledge the fact that those newly appointed and reappointed members, some of them have joined us and they are actually listening. They are attendees, some of them. So I just wanted to acknowledge their time and also thank them for making additional time this coming Friday for the oath of affirmation. Thank
Yes.
you, Madam Mayor.
Certainly do welcome them, and we are sorry that we're not going to be able to witness their swearing in. So I do see perhaps a couple of questions. Councilmember Marquez.
Mayor, I'd just like to move the item after public comments.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. So this has been moved by Councilmember Marquez, seconded by Councilmember Zermano.
Mayor, I think we need to have public comments
On this issue. Do we have any public comments, Madam City Clerk?
So far, I don't see any individuals wishing to speak at the moment.
All right. So with that, we'll close public comments and we have a motion to.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make the motion. I also want to thank our city clerk and her entire team. They've been phenomenal. As you could see, every year we get more and more applicants. So I just want to commend them for their amazing work and really appreciate their dedication. And I know COVID made it a bit challenging this go round, and for everyone's patience with the Zoom interviews, as well as the Keep Hayward Clean and Green Task Force for their efforts in interviewing and recommending applicants to us as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Wahab?
Yes, I personally don't want to hold up the appointment process. I specifically want to thank our city clerk for doing a phenomenal job, making sure that the applicants have enough time, have clarity, have options. Also, each year it's becoming more and more diverse. So I think that some strategies that the city clerk's office has implemented is very beneficial to the city. I also just want to highlight that, I want council to know that we are breaking our own 75% mandatory attendance for commissioners by appointing an alternate who has missed more than 75% or less than 75% of the threshold of mandatory attendance 2 years in a row. I do believe our commission are one of the most revered volunteer opportunities, with many qualified candidates that have approached me stating they are very unclear as to why we have policies that we do not follow. So I just want to clarify what is our policy on the attendance, as well as if their removal should be mandatory as well without the consultation of council, because we've done this 2 years in a row with certain individuals, and that's not fair.
Well, our policy is not mandatory. It is a guideline that we ask our commissioners to follow, and but we have always, given people the opportunity to come in and talk to us and explain why they may have been absent, and we have the choice of accepting that explanation or not. So, that is basically what our policy is.
Okay, and for the record, I am opposed to the alternates, specifically for the lack of attendance in previous years, but I support the motion.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'll just add my comments about the process. Thank you so much, Madam City Clerk. It was very well done this year, despite the need to do it. Almost, in some ways, might have gone a little easier. I mean, people were ready online when we needed them, and it. We're all getting used to talking to each other in a virtual manner, but I hope that we don't have to do that forever. But nevertheless, I'd like to thank the applicants, all of them, all 102, for stepping up and volunteering. I'm sorry that we do not have positions for every single one of them, especially all of the people that we interviewed, the 29 people that we did interview for this. And, I'm very excited and pleased that we have so many people stepping up, wanting to help out in this city by serving on one of these commissions. And I just want everyone who did not get appointed to a commission to know that, we do this every year, and we almost always have openings, some. And also there are so many other opportunities in the city to volunteer and get involved, both with the city itself. I know our library, Our police department in particular, the animal shelter, have a lot of opportunities to volunteer. And then there are a lot of other organizations in our city, nonprofits, our partners, the Hayward Unified School District or the Hayward Area Recreation District, who have lots of volunteer opportunities. So there are lots of ways to get involved, but I really appreciated the people who stepped up and applied for these positions. Every single one of you is an outstanding citizen for doing that. And we all really appreciated that. So it was very, very difficult for all of us to choose people who are, who are being, will be, if this resolution passes, appointed to these commissions. So with that, and if no one else has any comments, I will call for the vote on the resolution that was that was moved by Councilmember Marquez and seconded by Councilmember Zermano.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Lamnin.
With appreciation, aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermano.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Yes.
With that, congratulations to all of you, and we look forward to working with all of you and seeing you in person someday, hopefully not in the too distant future. With that, we're going to move on to our consent calendar, which has already, I guess, had some comments this evening. And that is items 2 through, a lot of them tonight since we're just coming out. Yes, 2 through 16. So first of all, I will ask Madam City Clerk, are there any speakers that have asked to speak on any of these items?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I believe there is one person who is, well, we have now 2. So, and I'm assuming this, the comments are on items that are on the consent calendar. So if you allow me, I'll go.
Yeah. All right. So, well, are you going to check with them to see what items they want?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to connect with them via this platform. So what we could do, and they are attendees, so we could ask them if they are here to speak on any item on the consent calendar, and then maybe you could take those comments, and then why don't we do that?
Before we do that, let me ask council if there's anyone who wants to pull any of these items off, so we know that to begin with. Councilmember Wahab, I've seen you raise your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull number 7 down and number 11.
Okay. All right. So 7 and 11 are being pulled off. So if you want to speak on that, probably would be best to wait until we take that up. But with that, if there are there any other council members? Councilmember Mendel?
Yeah, just a clarification. I think you stated that the consent calendar was items 2 through 16, but I believe it's 2 through 14.
I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to correct. I just wanted to make sure we were.
Clarification. It is. It's items 2 through 14. Items 15, 16, and 17 are hearing items. So,
Yes.
let's see.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, go ahead.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Thank you. So item 9 needs to be pulled off consent, I believe.
I'm going to go to the city manager right now on item number 9. Item number 9 is I had it, if it were to remain on this calendar, I would have to recuse myself from that item, but because I live very close to the property in question, but I'm going to turn this over to the city manager for a moment.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, we need to pull this item from the agenda to renotice it as a public hearing. So it will be coming back. And so the council, so item 9 will not be considered on tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. And we have, for whoever makes the motion, I would just ask that they include the amendment for item 4. I don't think it needs to be heard separately. I just think we need to acknowledge that there's an amendment to those minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam City Clerk, can you address that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll be happy to do that. And if I could get back to, so it's the minutes of July 21st, and on it's page 9. It's the second motion. Two members were listed twice, and one member was left out. So pretty much it's a typographical error that was done, and the proposed motion with the correct names is provided on the memo that I provided to everyone, and that is going to be posted on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, why don't we go ahead and hear the public comments and hear what, before we vote on these items.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We have a speaker by the name of Anne Maurice. Please go ahead and unmute. Yes, Anne Maurice, are you able to hear us? Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, now we're there. Okay. Hi, I'm commenting on item 13. Would you like me to talk now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I sent a letter to the council, and I want to, anyway, let me say who I am first. I'm sorry, I'm trying to I thought I was going to have a few minutes, sorry. So my name is Dr. Ann Maris. I live on Grove Way near the Parcel 8 development. For item 13, the city will be authorizing an exclusive negotiating agreement with RCD Housing to develop the Parcel 8 properties. That's my understanding, so please correct me if I'm wrong. And so I wanted to comment about that. We've been waiting a long time to have something happen on these properties. You know, we have a lot of trash, a lot of ugliness, a lot of lack of housing where people could be housed. And so I'm really happy that the city's moving forward with RCD and looking forward to a little more transparency with RCD. I've had a lot of interactions with them as the chair of the My Eden Voice Open Space Committee, Parks and Open Space Committee. And I never heard anything about this from RCD, so I'm a little disappointed in their transparency with community members. So I'd like to ask that the council expects better, more transparent communication between RCD and the community, regardless of these jurisdictional boundaries, because this area where I live on Grove Way and Parcel 8, as you're well aware, is partially in unincorporated county, partially in city of Hayward, right on the border of Cherryland. And so really a lot of people should be involved in what happens here. The intersection of Grove and Foothill, where the affordable housing development is planned, is a very dangerous, very busy intersection right before a freeway on-ramp. So we really need some careful consideration regarding how this site will be activated for community and how the area is going to accommodate all of these new residents. So we're asking the council, like I said, to expect and demand better transparent communication between RCD and community. We're also asking the council to encourage RCD to work with Eden Community Land Trust regarding the tenants if they're interested in purchasing their homes. We recognize that home ownership helps stabilize neighborhoods, and tenants, as great as they are and as great as I was as a tenant, they don't stabilize a neighborhood in the same way that ownership does. So they've been long-term tenants, and if they're interested in ownership, we hope that the city will encourage RCD a little stronger to actually work with the local land trust. That would help keep any sort of wealth that's acquired through this affordable housing in the local area. The third item is that we ask the council to require community amenities. We don't have a master development plan in place for this. We're separating the parcel into 3 pieces. in this action and then giving the affordable component rights of development to RCD. And we've lost a lot right there. You know, the buildings were ready.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I do have to interrupt because your time is up on this, but thank you. And we can have somebody follow up with you from staff on your comments and opportunities to interact with the developer or the staff. Okay, is there anyone else, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, we have Nestor Castillo. Please go ahead and unmute.
Yes, hello everyone. Good evening. I'm speaking towards item 13 as well, around parcel 8. I'm part of the Eden Community Land Trust, and we've been working with Bridgeport residents since 2018 to ensure that they're incorporated in this process and that this be a community-driven process. And I'm happy to say, in fact, that to ensure that they're incorporated in this process and that this be a community-driven process. And I'm happy to say this process and to praise them for really striving towards zero displacement of those residents, which I think is something that the city has had trouble with before. And so I'm looking forward to maintaining that relationship between RCD, which I think the city of Hayward is something that the city has had trouble with before. And so I'm looking forward to, because I think RCD as a more traditional affordable housing developer maybe does not have that experience of building community ties with this particular community. They have a lot of work in the unincorporated area, which I've participated in myself through my Eden Voice, but otherwise has very little experience, I think, working with a community land trust. And I think there's a lot of confusion of what a community land trust actually does. And it often takes multiple explainers, but the short of it is that the community land trust acts as the steward of the land and provides affordability in perpetuity and removes whatever structures are on top of that land. And so the land trust becomes the steward. And if there's affordable housing or commercial or anything that's basically on top of that land is stewarded by the land trust. And it's a community-driven process from the bottom up. And so this is why it's crucial and important, and that it's within reach of those residents, that home ownership can be within reach for those residents, and that these processes are not mutually exclusive. I think the report outlines that there are potential ways that the land trust, that the city can move forward, one being the land trust, but the land trust is flexible. It offers a flexible model in that it can maintain the rental housing that exists, or it could rehab, or it could construct new projects in partnership with RCD, who's an experienced developer. So we hope to maintain that relationship and to hopefully arrive at an outcome that works for all of those residents, including the Bridgeport residents and the neighboring residents. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, we have the next speaker, Jesse Gunn. Go ahead and unmute, please. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I was calling. Sorry, my dog's back. I was calling on the consent item 13, also with the parcel 8, and I just wanted to reiterate some of the other callers and just say that I agree that there needs to be a continued partnership with the Eden Land Trust. And I want to thank the City of Hayward for doing a great job in ensuring that there will be some affordable housing and that you are providing opportunities for the existing residents there to be able to purchase property and become homeowners there. So I just wanted to say I appreciate all the work that's happening, and I do believe that we will get to a good position for the residents there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Michael Freed. Michael Freed, please unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just trying out some new earbuds, so I'm not sure if you're going to get everything. But yeah, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on this item number, and if it's really essential to have it with all the other items to deal with, making decisions on things that are of, I think, some concern with our borderline communities where we're shared jurisdictions over the county and city, especially on the Grove Way parcel is kind of like right on the edge. It seems to me that there should be a little more, I'm going to say transparency between RCD and, coming forward as, I guess I just have an issue with the term exclusive engagement with RCD. I just wonder about this word exclusive assignment to them as the builder or the contractor. When we're trying to look for inclusivity and trying to get all of our to have an inclusive voice about what happens with all these things. I really appreciate all the work that all of you are doing, especially along these 238 properties that are really contentious in terms of, who's going to be managing them and who's going to be developing them and who's going to reap the benefits of them, especially in this gateway area along Foothill Boulevard. I think it's really important to step back a little bit and see how you can, just as a city, as a municipality, be a little bit more inclusive as an Eden area concern. It's a little more regional than just the boundary. And because it is such a jagged boundary, I think we have to be kind of careful how we operate in terms of the community. And I live in Cherryland. I'm an unincorporated area person. I'm on Nate Miley's EMAC council. And, I've gone and spoken before the CBMAC, and I'm trying to get a little bit more just sort of a regional approach to where decisions that are made for one little area are really going to affect everybody else. So I just think we have to slow down a little bit. We have the opportunity now to take all these things into consideration and see how we can move forward in a little more inclusive way rather than even using the term exclusive contract. I don't know how it's worded, but RCD is getting the exclusive, contract, I guess you call it, with the city of Hayward to, go forward with development. And that the word exclusive, shouldn't be, we should reword it somehow. It's a philosophical thing, but it's also a life-changing thing. We have this opportunity now under the cover of darkness with COVID. We can't really go out and do things, so let's do it, together on these kinds of meetings, and it's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next speaker, Alexis Villalobos. Please go ahead and unmute. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to speak on 2 items. One, I wanted to follow up on the comments on the public land and the community land trust. And I just want to reiterate what Nestor Castillo said earlier. I agree completely with him that we shouldn't think of this as one alternative option to these other options that are being considered. We should see this as the model of ownership and stewardship of the land. Instead of deciding here for who knows how long, whether this is going to be a commercial property or residential property, and deciding which developer is going to get it and decide what to do with it in the future. Let's let that ownership go to the residents of this community. That way we can decide what to do with that land as residents of Hayward, as residents of that property itself. If people are there, they're going to have a say in whether or not it gets demolished and used for other purposes. So keeping that in the residents of Hayward's control. And the other thing I wanted to comment on today is the approval of the funds being allocated to the Hayward Police Department for HUSD through the county program, the mental health services.
Okay, that is item
11, I believe.
Go ahead and make your comments.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. No, that's fine.
I was going to say it's a different subject, but it is on the consent calendar, so I'm trying to find it.
It is. Well, it might not be on consent anymore. It might be on further discussion, but it is on the agenda. So I wanted to comment on that and say that it's great. We do want these services for our families and our youth. Mental health is an important issue that we should be providing services for in the community. But it's not needed to be held under the Hayward Police Department. These counselors and the people who are going to be providing these services don't need to be under the Hayward Police Department. So we really do need to be considering putting that and housing that in a different department in the city, especially when there's community demands to defund the police and to dismantle this system that we currently have. And further, I think what's important when we see this is that a lot of council members in the past I've heard respond to me and to some of my allies' requests for canceling the SRO program. One of the reasons given that there was nothing that the council could do is because it was the decision of HUSD, that you were not the school board, and so you had nothing to say. But this shows that even though HUSD ultimately needs to decide whether it wants the contract, that you then need to approve it. So you, in the end, have the final say, and you do have the power to make change. And I want to highlight that to you, to each of you, when you use those excuses, and to all the listeners tonight. When you hear these bogus remarks about why this council doesn't have power and tosses the hot potato to either the county, the state, or the feds, you know that they are just trying to skirt away and not listen to your demands. So continue fighting. Don't let this down. Look at what they're doing. Look at these decisions and what it means today that they have to approve the HUSD contract, or the money going from HUSD to the city and then back to the Hayward Police Department. So thank you very much. I yield the rest of my time. Have a very good night.
Thank you. And that was item number 7, which has already been pulled off and we will be discussing it separately. So thank you for the comments. Madam City Clerk, are there any other requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, that was the last speaker wishing to speak.
Okay, so we are going to close public comment on the consent calendar now. And okay, this is it. This is items 2 through 14. Item 9 has been removed. Items 7 and 11 will have been, Councilmember Wahab has requested that we remove them and have some other discussion. And I'm going to also, I think, pull off from the consent calendar in case, since we did get several comments, and we'll vote on that separately. So I'm going to keep item 4 on the consent calendar with the understanding that the change that was the amendment that was proposed and sent to us earlier in the day will be what we're voting on. So with that, we will now be voting on items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. Do I have a motion for those items?
So moved, Madam Mayor, so moved.
Okay, and seconded by Councilmember Wahab, I believe. I'm sorry, Councilmember Marquez.
Yes, Mayor. Second.
Okay. All right, so those items, Madam City Clerk, are you clear on what items we are voting on right now? Okay, and that was moved by Councilmember Mendel, seconded by Councilmember Marquez. Please call the roll for the vote.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Lamnin?
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab?
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño?
Yes.
Mayor Halliday?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go back to item number 7. Councilmember Wahab? And item number 7 is resolution approving agreements with the Alameda County Healthcare Services Agency and the Hayward Unified School District for school-based mental health services in the amounts of $220,000 and $120,000 respectively, and authorizing the city manager to execute those agreements. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. I do believe we have Dr. Emily Young on the line, Chief Tony Chaplin, and our city manager, of course. I just have a couple questions. Number one, I just wanted to ask, what is the methodology of the count for the people served?
So the county who we contract with has a tracking tool they've developed with a consultant, and all of the providers enter information about every contact that they have at the school sites. We've struggled because so much of what we do provides services to the school climate, and so we have tried to find ways to capture that as well as possible. And so the county developed a tool that we use, and because the services provided under the county contract and the school district contract are so similar, they've folded the school district contract providers into that. So it's all through one system developed by the county.
Okay. So a further question, is this unique? Is each individual unique? So for example, we have individual clients, 121 students. Are these students unique students, or have you serviced, let's say, 3 people 4 times?
Nope, they're unique. So there's some services are provided are more intense and some are broader. But if it says unique, it's a unique service.
So it doesn't say unique service. I just want, so that hence
Are you looking in the staff report or in the addendum?
The staff report in particular.
Okay.
Okay.
Pull it up. I'll pull it up. So I'm looking at exactly what you are.
Page 4 of 8.
Thank you. Okay. So the data that's in the staff report itself, so the number of unique individuals served, students, family, teachers, school administrators, other providers, is unique. And then the individual clients is also unique. That's 121 students who received individual services.
Okay. And then the group clients, for example, are they in a class? Because often I've heard from the teachers in the schools as well as the students that sometimes you guys will ask that an entire class come in. So I'm kind of wondering, how are we really, one, the programs for group therapy, what exactly does that entail? Are they volunteering, or are you guys just walking into a class for a single day and offering whatever service?
Yeah, so it's some of both. So we coordinate very closely with the coordination of services teams at each of the Hayward Unified School District sites. And so a number of students are identified for group services through that process because of higher needs that they have, behaviorally, mental, et cetera. And so they're put into groups that are appropriate for the needs that they have. And then, another way that we have worked to serve as many students as possible is support whole classrooms. And so, for example, one of our clinicians is trained in a mindfulness curriculum that's in, sorry, my daughter just fell down the stairs. I have a co-parent with me, so she's good. She wanted to be at the meeting. Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
So, for example, she was trained in a mindfulness curriculum, and which is intended to be pushed into classrooms so that teachers actually develop the skills to help regulate their own classrooms with mindfulness skills. So it's a little bit of everything.
Okay. So I know in the HUSD joint meeting that we had, right, the co-meeting we had, I know that I wasn't too impressed with the number of students that we are outreaching to, especially when you compare the age groups. So for example, we had, I think in the little league type of baseball program, we had roughly about 6,000 people served, right?
600 with Junior Giant.
600, yes, versus the individual clients here where it's 121. So I do want to see better metrics, if you will. And the other thing is the item that we are speaking about in particular, I just want to make it very clear to the public. We are only talking about mental health therapists that are involved. We are not talking about school resource officers, correct?
Correct. On school sites.
Okay. And I do believe that, and this is just a personal suggestion, we know that the sooner you engage with a student, the younger they are, the more impact it has. When we talk to school to prison pipelines, even before the age of 3 or 4, if a child knows 30 million words, they are at a far better advantage. The gap cannot even be reduced after that, after the age of 3 or 4. So the younger, the better. I do believe that's important. But in regards to COVID and shelter in place and distance learning, what type of mental health services are you providing? How are you providing that? how are you able to know that there is something going on in a child's life?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's something we've been talking a lot about, as you can imagine, because this is such a unique circumstance. And I am so proud, my team, we've transitioned completely to telehealth, and we did it in a matter of days. Everybody got trained, everybody got equipment, we reached out. So all of our services are fully functional in a virtual world. And we know that access to technology is an ongoing issue with the district. And so we've supported them making phone calls to families that haven't shown up or haven't been consistent. We partner with the SARB team to try and provide services when kids are chronically absent. So all the things that we do non-COVID time, we are finding ways to replicate them virtually. And then as of the beginning of July or August, I can't remember, but we established protocol for resuming in-person services with socially distanced protocols in place. And so, we're doing our best to catch everybody with the tools that we have, but in terms of telehealth, we're probably busier than we were before as we've kind of completely adapted all of our services.
Have you been able to identify any type of abuse or any problems in this year in the last, let's say, month and a half or so?
Yeah, so it's so hard because we're just limited by what we can see on screen, and there's so much that we can't. So I think, honestly speaking, we all of us who are kind of in this profession are nervous about what we will learn when school resumes. And one of the things we've been doing as we roll out this year is doing staff development for teachers and training them on what to look for. And we've been doing some mental health first aid training so that, if the only time eyeballs are on kids is when they're in their virtual classroom, how are we equipping the teachers who are seeing the most kids, the tools that they need to identify what they need to identify, to make that referral to the coordination of services team, if it's for mental health or behavioral health things, or to identify abuse and report it. So no, it's not perfect. It can't be, but we're really working on it and talking about it a lot.
Okay. And then the question I raised in that joint meeting as well, I just want to see if there was any follow-up, any discussion about moving the Youth and Family Services Bureau outside of the police department and into the community services department. Collaboration can happen if needed, but a different reporting structure. I just want to understand, has that been looked at?
Yeah, and I think Councilmember Wahab, that's a conversation that we'll be having over the next couple of months. It's part of the community engagement process I talked about earlier around the police department funding, the organizational structure. And so we have not made any decisions or recommendations around that yet, but intend to have those conversations with the council as we come back. We wanted to make sure to move forward with this contract now so that students didn't lose services during the school year while we're having the conversations. And HUSD did approve this contract already, so the council is just
yes, I saw that. My biggest concern, and I have to be very clear about that, is that Dr. Emily Young, obviously this is your program, you started it, you created a lot of things like that. I just want to make sure that we ensure that you have full autonomy, and at the same time, it is very much focused on the mental health piece of it and best practices. And I do believe, we will have the community discussion. So I definitely want to see that. I do want to ask from our chief of police, primarily what benefits do you see with this program being under your umbrella? And, would you be open to having adjustments made, because we are overall under the city umbrella, but I just want to understand from your perspective.
First of all, I think they provide a valuable service, and I agree with Dr. Young. It's going to be important for us to find out what's been happening in households during the shut-in process. We've seen domestic violence with adults through the roof as the veil of COVID is lifted. And as far as having this program in HPD, I think it's important to keep in mind Dr. Young has taken it to a new level, but this has been embedded with the Hayward Police Department for 40 years. And it's been a phenomenal partnership and relationship because it's a symbiotic relationship. We can provide services and on the other side of things, where we need to remove folks from households for their own safety. When there is that abuse in the house, it can be done instantaneously through the enforcement wing. You know, and the reality is the folks we serve, the youth, that's the important piece in this thing. It's not necessarily where it's housed as opposed to what services it provides. And the reason it is housed with us is because we can provide those services quickly. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the names of things, but I think Dr. Young will agree with this, that when these things are seen, the more lag time there is, when you move this out and you have that process of her now having to reach out and contact us to have us respond, every second counts in these abuse cases. And with them being embedded in the HPD, they have instantaneous service from police.
Okay.
And police have instantaneous access to us when they're seeing things in the community that need mental health. We're right there.
Okay. And I do appreciate that, Chief. And final question for Dr. Young. Do you have any plans on expanding this program or hiring more MFTIs or anything like that, considering that you guys really only touch roughly about, I want to say 6 schools, was it? Yes. I believe 6 schools and not all simultaneously. Do we have plans on expanding this program and providing, obviously I'm a huge advocate of mental health services and the more that we can help you know, preventive measures and things like that at the very beginning rather than reactive. I would like to see something like that. So what are your plans there?
Yeah, we serve 10 sites currently. We work really closely with the district and the county. And when the HOSD contract was added 3 years ago, it was really exciting because we were filling gaps in the last 4 schools that didn't have any mental health services. So even though we're only at 10 sites, we work collaboratively with other providers who do cover all of both sites. I would always like to expand. I'm limited by my budget and my space in my building, but the more mental health people we have, I think there's lots of opportunities, and I love building programs and coming up with new ways to serve the community. So I'm up for the challenge. And then another exciting advancement this week or last Thursday, we started with 2 clinical interns, which is the first time we've had interns in a while. And so we brought them back because we wanted to do more than we were able to do. And so it's something that we've been trying to get back for a while, and we put it in place last week. So yes, and not right now, I guess.
Okay. And your staff report, page 4 of 8, says 6 schools. So I'd like to know what the other 4 are. But then at the same time, the final question is, funding is 100% covered. I would just like you guys, if our city manager can touch on that as to the funding of basically where does the funding come, and are we 100% covered?
Yeah, and I believe Dr. Young can also speak to it. The funding is 100% covered through the county grant, the school district payment, and then we do get reimbursement from Medicaid reimbursement, and so that fully covers the cost of the counseling.
Okay. And the 4
Medi-Cal administrative activities. So we do not bill Medi-Cal, but you approved the Medi-Cal administrative activities contract in May, and it's complicated, but it's extra money.
Okay, and then the 4 schools.
Yeah, it's on the next part. It's because there are 2 different contracts. One is under the county and one is under the school district. Okay, but the additional 4 schools are Lauren Eden, Mount Eden, Southgate, and Stonebray.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll move the item.
All right. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Salinas. I don't see anyone else wanting to speak on the item. So, Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes. And I'll just repeat, as was stated, this program will be further discussed when we have our broader discussion about the police department and the services. So, so with that, we're going to move now to item number 11, I believe. Yes, 11. And that again, that's to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Sloan Sakai Young and Wong LLP for provision of labor relations services. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify with our city manager that our unions were fine with this solution being provided, correct?
Correct. We did, before we put this item on the agenda, this is specific to our upcoming contract negotiations with SEIU, Local 1021, and then IFPTE Local 21. And we did meet with both our employee representatives and the union representatives to inform them of this change. In addition to the outside negotiator who will be sitting at the table, we will have HR staff participating in the negotiations as well.
Were there any concerns raised?
I think making sure, particularly with SEIU, that some of when we used an outside negotiator a number of years ago, it was not successful. And so they expressed that to me. And I said, well, that's why I'm on this meeting with all of you, so that you know that you have an open conduit to my office if there are concerns as we go through the negotiation process.
Good. And then when will we find a replacement for our HR director?
We, as part of the budget and cost savings, we decided to freeze the position for 6 months. And so we will probably be starting the recruitment later this fall to fill that position.
All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Would someone like to move the item?
I'll move the item, Mayor.
Okay. And would someone like to second the item?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Marquez, seconded by Councilmember Mendel. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
No.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes. And the motion carries with 6 aye votes and 1 no vote. Okay. And then I did hold item number 13 because we had several comments. So I wanted to know if there was anyone on council who wanted to speak. I will move the item. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Wahab, did you want to speak on this one or?
Sorry, I think my hand was just up, but I do just want to, number 13, correct?
Yes.
I just want to reiterate to the public that for the most part, a lot of your questions were asked to our city manager. We did have some discussion, myself and our city manager, that a lot of the discussions and concerns that you guys have in regards to community land trust, housing, things like that. I know that everybody on the council is very open to talking to any resident that has concerns, but at the same time that once something is selected, this is just the beginning process, and your input is going to be highly valuable. Outreach will happen, all of the things that you guys are concerned about. So I just wanted to clarify that for the public that did call in and have emailed and messaged us.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lamnin?
Thank you. Yes, thank you for that clarification, Councilmember Wahab, and thank you for the opportunity I just have a couple comments on this. I am supportive of the motion and appreciate that there's been a lot of creativity and outreach thus far, and an inclusion of the Community Land Trust as a very solid part of this conversation. I really appreciate that, as well as the priority on non-displacement. I'm a little concerned about the segregating of an affordable housing complex from a market rate complex, but I do understand that part of making this work in terms of the negotiations with Caltrans, the idea that we don't really have those product types available yet to do the mixed income at the level that we'd like to. The timeline from Caltrans, even with the extension, there's a lot of moving parts here. And so, my ask would be, as we go forward, that, the market rate developer, once they're selected, is going to be getting, they're still going to be carrying all of the land cost plus probably a significant amount of traffic mitigation, as one of the callers mentioned. At the same time, they're going to have a reduced amount of fees because of the park and lieu already being done and the affordable housing already being done. And so I'd like to see that savings passed on to the future owners. And that, again, the priority here being ownership, and whether that's, especially on the affordable side, that, whether that's a transition time, like a CalCHA kind of setup that that RCD does, I understand there will be development costs. And so the land, even if the land costs are mitigated, there's still development costs to be covered. But the opportunity to really have this transition from developer to either co-op ownership facilitated by the land trust or direct ownership by the residents. I'm excited about the next 3 to 6 months to have the conversation about what those mechanisms are, because I don't think we quite understand them yet, but that really be a priority for this property and is the opportunity to really have those conversations in depth and move us towards affordable ownership. And lastly, that I know the 3 options that RCD is to explore for us. Currently, all of them include tearing down the commercial. And I really want to have the opportunity for the community to have the conversation about whether or not it really makes sense to keep that property, and perhaps it gets managed by the folks that are doing the Castro Valley Marketplace or the public market. Castro Valley Marketplace is really a vibrant opportunity for local entrepreneurship, employment, et cetera. And so given that there's already a commercial space, given that there's residential opportunities there, that's a little far to walk to the Safeway Center. So the opportunity to really have some commercial in that neighborhood too. I don't want to lose that opportunity to at least explore it and hopefully be able to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Councilmember Zarmeño?
Yes, thank you. I do like some of the public comments that were made today, especially those dealing that there's a very good opportunity for home ownership, and that's something that's very important. So that's something that we as council listen to what the community is requesting, and that's the reason that I think we're doing this. So retail certainly is possible, but I think the affordability is there, the opportunity for home ownership, and the fact that we are going to have a developer who's going to sit down with the community, with the stakeholders there, and that's very, very important. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank all the callers that called in tonight and have been participating in the community meetings. It's been very helpful to hear their input, and want to thank staff. If you look at page 3 of the staff report, it lists the numerous community meetings and different outreach events. So moving forward, I just want to ask staff if there's a way we could simplify the process and come up with a designated email for anyone that wants information specific to the site, and also to highlight updates on our website just to keep the lines of communication going. But overall, I'm very excited about the affordability opportunities and hope that we can really hit our RENA numbers with this site. So thank you again, everyone, for your great work.
And just to respond, this is Jenna Feeney, Deputy City Manager, and I'm happy to set something up on our website and make sure that there's a clear kind of clearinghouse for information so that people know where to go and get the latest information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I think that we are ready to vote on this item. The motion was made by me, and I think, was it seconded by Councilmember Mendel? Yes, okay. So on the motion by approving the staff recommendation made by me, seconded by Councilmember Mendel. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zarmeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was 5 yeses and 2 ayes, if I heard correctly. But anyway, the motion carries with 7 affirmative votes, and we have now completed the consent calendar. So we will move on to our next item, which is a public hearing item. It is item number 15 regarding the Mission Crossing project, and we're considering a resolution to amend the conditions of approval that we had recently approved. This involves 143-story condominiums, a 93-room hotel, and 76 7,225 square feet of community serving retail. This is along Mission Boulevard near Berry Avenue. And we are going to begin this item with a report from I believe the title is Planning Manager, Sarah Bowser. Is that correct?
Yes, good evening.
Yes.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I just wanted to check, am I going to be sharing my screen? Yes, okay, perfect. All right. Hopefully everybody can see the presentation. Anyway, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the Hayward community. Tonight's item before you involves a consideration of an amendment to conditions of approval associated with the approved Mission Crossings project related to phasing of the different components of the development project. So just a little project history. An early iteration of the project was originally presented to the Council Economic Development Committee in September of 2015. Following that feedback, the developer continued outreach to achieve a project that aligned with Council Economic Development Committee feedback and staff direction. In May of 2016, the application was submitted for review, and the project, as you mentioned, Mayor, involved the construction of 140 townhome-style condos with a 93-room hotel and a little over 7,000 square feet of commercial development along the Mission Boulevard frontage. In April of 2017, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the project, and then following in May of 2017, the City Council did approve the project. At this time, the City Council, in fact, even at the second reading of the project, the City Council modified conditions of approval related to the timing of the development, requiring that the hotel and commercial components be constructed in step with the residential components of the project. In August of 2018, building permits were issued for construction of the residential units, and grading occurred on the entirety of the site. In November of 2019, the hotel and retail permits were approved but hadn't been picked up. And then in July, well, obviously we all know about March of this year, the area was struck by the coronavirus, and we all went into shelter in place. And in July of this year, the developer of the residential component approached the city to discuss concerns over the hotel group being able to deliver the hotel and the retail component, and how that would impact the final development and ultimate issuances of the certificates of occupancy for the housing project. And so then brings us here tonight at the council meeting. This is just a current aerial shot of the project under construction. As you can see, many of the units are currently under construction. The community open space has already been developed. And then as you can see across the frontage, the front portion of the property has been graded and is just currently fenced off. As of today, the city has issued 126 of the 140 permits for the residential units. The last 14 permits have been approved and they're ready for issuance, but they just haven't been picked up yet. And to date, the city has issued 64 certificates of occupancy of those residential units. So referring back to the resolution adopted by City Council, the requirement was for the hotel and retail pad to be rough graded prior to issuance of the first certificate of occupancy, and for the hotel to be in vertical construction before the 100th certificate of occupancy was issued, and then to be complete prior to the last. So based on the data that I just shared on the previous slide, the project is in compliance with that condition. However, the impacts of COVID and on the market have made it sort of challenging for the hotel group to secure financing, and it's going to pose challenges for the ultimate and final build out of the housing units. The applicant, as I mentioned, did approach the city to request a modification in the language of the condition of approval. At this time, they are requesting flexibility to complete the units for which they have already pulled building permits and are under construction, and are suggesting that we hold back the remaining 14 units within 3 buildings on site until a plan for the frontage can be approved and executed. When staff met with the applicant, we did explain the importance of having some sort of plan or idea for the frontage if they were going to ask for relief from this condition of approval. So just to provide some context, the 3 buildings that have yet to be constructed are buildings 5, 9, and 13, and they are located at the southern end of the project site off of Dollar, as shown here. One of the options for consideration is to activate the frontage with maybe some pop-up food trucks or container restaurants with some outdoor seating. This type of development would not involve significant site improvements. It could activate the Mission Boulevard frontage and would still allow for the ultimate development of the hotel and retail should the market bounce back at some point in the future. Another alternative that they are exploring is to propose maybe some additional housing on the front, which could include affordable housing. This, of course, would involve a new entitlement process for the frontage, and that would obviously take some time to go through that process. But it also has the benefit of, sort of working towards addressing the housing crisis that we experience here in the Bay Area. However, with the level of improvements that would be required for that type of development, it's not likely that the hotel and the commercial would ever be constructed. So just some pros and cons for those options. Staff is interested in hearing from the City Council regarding the proposed condition of approval modification, as well as the concepts being floated by the developer. If the council is amenable to the modified language or some version of a condition modification, staff is viewing the next steps as ongoing discussions with the developer on a proposal to activate that frontage, including a future work session with the Council Economic Development Committee. And assuming that some modified language is acceptable, the residential construction would then be allowed to continue, minus, of course, the construction of the final units within the final 3 buildings until a solution could be reached for the frontage of that property. I would just like to note for council, staff did receive some public comment about this item, which I believe have been forwarded to the council for your consideration. Some in favor of the request, while others were not in favor of granting the request. And I also want to point out for the council tonight that we do have representatives from MLC Holdings and the Manchester Hotel Group that are available here to answer any specific questions that the council might have. With that, I will concludes my presentation, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised. I want to ask a question. The proposal by the developer regarding allowing them to finish finish building the residential units that they've already pulled permits for, holding 14 units within those 3 buildings, 5, 9, and 13, until such time as either a temporary or permanent plan for development of, I think you had language up there, what it was, but my question really is it they would be allowed to develop those parcels when a plan was developed that the city council approved, or when that plan was executed?
No, I mean, I think the idea is that they would work on a plan for the frontage of that property. And when we had approval and we knew that was moving forward, or whatever would be at the suggestion or recommendation of council, we could, the wording of the condition could be whatever. This is the suggested language as we've worked it out with the developer. But as it reads right now, or the recommendation or the up for consideration for the council, is that, I'll read the language. It says that the occupancy permits could be issued for all homes in the community except those located in buildings 5, 9, and 13, which contains the last 14 units, as shown on that site exhibit, irrespective of the status of the hotel development. and issuance of building permits for those last 3 buildings or 14 units would occur upon the earlier of either the commencement of the vertical construction on the hotel project site, obviously with the hotel and commercial development, or approval by the city of an alternative development program for that parcel that offers a suitable community benefit or revenue generating use. Occupancy for those permits or for those final 14 units may be granted after the alternative program has been constructed and nearing final completion occupancy. So the idea is that the original condition said that, the hotel had to start vertical construction by the time they were at 100 and had to be complete by the 140th certificate of occupancy. So the change is to allow them to continue building and get certificates of occupancy for the 126 units that they've already pulled permits for, so that we can create safe, living and site conditions for those units that are now under construction. But until we have a plan and that's fully constructed or well on its way, would they be able to get the permits for the last 14 units.
All
so
right.
I hope that's clear.
And clarifies, yeah. And that plan would not be any potential temporary solution such as the pop-up dining and all that would not satisfy the and allow the additional units to be completed.
I think we would love feedback, and if the position of council is that would not satisfy that, then that's up to the council. I think that we were most concerned about something that would, a little leery of leaving that frontage. It's a pretty significant frontage across Mission Boulevard, and to leave that site fenced and vacant for any length of time, and trying to look for some ways where at least that space could be activated in some way. I think that if we were to activate it in some way, like with the pop-up, that provides some flexibility so that there's still the possibility in the future of being able to develop the hotel and the commercial that was originally envisioned. I think if that is not something that meets the criteria that the council would like to see, but would like to see something more permanent there, then perhaps, there's some other alternatives. And perhaps there's something even yet a third or a fourth alternative that we didn't even describe tonight that might be possible for the front. So I think we're really looking for whether or not the council would support some flexibility in the condition, and what sort of thoughts you may have about what to do about that frontage in the interim, given that we're sort of sitting in an odd situation with the onset of COVID.
Okay. All right. So now we are just having questions right now. And because I don't know whether we have any members of the public wanting to comment. So I'll go to Councilmember Wahab first.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate the presentation and the staff report. To a certain extent, it was a little confusing. I just want to understand building numbers 5, 9, and 13. How many units are in it?
A total of 14 in those 3 buildings.
Okay, so it's divided out like 5 units, 4 to 5 units a piece almost?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, one of the things is that I feel that when we decide something, it should that's the plan that we all trying to move along with, right? I understand COVID has become a problem. One of the other concerns I do have is that, let's say if we were interested in affordable housing, right, as a possibility, do the developers have the option of paying the in lieu fee?
From the original project, I believe they did on the first 140 units. Yes, that was the option that was chosen. I think if we were looking at re-entitling the front of this piece to allow more housing, which would involve changing the zoning on the frontage, because the front part of the property has a commercial overlay that necessitates commercial development on the frontage. So to do housing, we would have to change the zoning on that front and do a whole re-entitlement. And I think through that process, we could certainly talk with them about making what we had on-site inclusionary, and or perhaps it would be a 100% affordable. I don't know. I'm sure the developers would be able to answer some of those more specifically, but I think just
And currently there's 0 affordable housing on this site.
Correct. That is correct. There is no on-site affordable units in the 140. They chose to pay the in lieu fee.
Okay. And then the next question. So obviously, I was unfamiliar with this project in particular until this report, but I do appreciate the report. I'm okay with flexibility, but I'll be honest with you. The priorities that I would have if you were to go on any direction, it would be number 1, affordable housing, just because we need it. Number 2, I don't mind the pop-up idea, to be completely frank. My concern is that Mission is not an area that you can kind of just pull off.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Wahab, but this is the question side, and I think we still have a public hearing side. Sorry.
Thank you for that.
Questions right now.
Pop-up.
Chance to discuss, and definitely want to hear those ideas.
Okay. So let me just finish the question, and I'll adjust it to a question. The pop-up, considering with COVID and the fact that we could potentially get that up and running pretty quickly, my question is, how successful has that been? Why we haven't used it, and what do you see that entail?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't know that I have a clear answer for that question. I think it's something that we've been exploring as staff, where there might be options on vacant parcels throughout the city, whether that might be a good temporary interim use. I can tell you that several years ago, we played and toyed with pop-up retail, and we had some retailers that popped up in existing retail spaces in downtown Hayward. And, they were successful to a point. I think that COVID has changed a lot of things about the way people operate and access food and spend their time. And I think people are more interested in spending a little more time outside, albeit when the air quality is a bit better. But I think people, are enjoying that aspect. I don't know that I have an answer to that. I don't know. I just think it's things that we're trying to explore to see what sort of flexibility there is and to make sure that we're providing opportunities for the way things are changing, and whether or not it might be something worth exploring. But I can't really speak to how successful it might be.
And then for the options that you provided, I understand you provided these 2. Was there anything that you didn't put in the staff report that you kind of thinking about?
Not honestly, no. I mean, I'm kind of troubled. I'm trying to figure out what we might do with that front. And these were some ideas that came to mind in consultation with the development team. It's possible they might have some other ideas, and maybe we could ask them to share anything else they may have been exploring for the site.
All right.
So, and if you have any ideas, wait till we get to the discussion.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Marquez. Councilmember Marquez?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. So thank you, Sarah, for your report. I'm very familiar with this project, and we see the buildings going up. It's nice to see the public space already. I don't think it's being utilized, but you could see it from Mission. So my question is, Manchester has already acquired the property. Is that correct?
That's correct. The frontage property has been acquired by the Manchester Hotel Group, and they are the owner of the front portion of the property. Yes.
And what hotel were they looking at in terms of constructing? What product? What brand? Do you know?
Oh, the hotel was set to be a Marriott Residence Inn. So that's how it was approved through the Planning Commission and the council, and how it moved forward through building permits and everything. So it was planned to be a Marriott Residence Inn.
Okay. And then the issue right now is just securing financing to actually conduct the construction. Do we know how
That's my understanding.
Do we know how much we're talking about? I just trying to...
I don't, but we do have reps from the Manchester Hotel Group as well as MLC Holdings that may be able to answer that.
Okay. And then what type of communication or outreach has been given to the people that have already moved in or have purchased their home or waiting to move in? How are they being informed of this issue?
I would probably defer to the applicant on that. I can't speak to that.
Okay. And I'm aware of 2 emails that we've received thus far on this project. Has there been more than 2? Is from Mr. Varney and from Marianne Higgs? Or were there other emails received?
There was an email from Peter Kotry, who is the owner developer of the Holiday Inn Express on the east side of Mission Boulevard, that also sent in an email.
Did that come in today? Do you know? I haven't seen it.
No, I believe it came in a day or 2 ago.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. Okay, and then how soon would staff, if we do decide to be flexible with the situation, how soon would we convene the work session?
It's a good question. I mean, it might be possible to bring it before the Council Economic Development Committee in October, or it may have to wait until November unless there was a special meeting. I mean, we're just getting close to when reports would have to be prepared, so it may not happen until like November, to be honest.
And right now, the vacant frontage is just being used, it looks like, parking for the workers, and it is fenced off.
Correct.
Okay. Those are, and then I don't know if you know this answer, but we have several hotels approved in the pipeline, one of them being across the street from this site. Do you know which hotels are already in construction and which have been approved? I know there's also been projects approved for Hesperian Boulevard. Do you have a sense of where we're at?
Yes. So the Holiday Inn Express is under construction, and we just recently issued the permit for one of the hotels out off of Hesperian by the airport. So that should be moving forward and being under construction. There was another hotel on the west side of Mission, not too far from here, and they have not yet come in and pulled permits.
And was there an additional hotel on Hesperian Boulevard as well?
There were 2 sort of near the airport, I believe. And I to be honest, I know of at least one. I'm not sure if the second one has pulled permits or not.
I'll just add in, Home to Suites has pulled their building permit. So that one is moving ahead. I don't know about the other one. It hasn't pulled the building permit. Yeah.
And what street is that one on?
Home to Suites.
I think they're both near the airport and on airport property.
I got it. Okay. Do you know the company of the other hotel?
I don't.
Okay. Those are all my questions for now. I'll give my input later. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Salinas.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I don't know if this is a question for Sarah or I'm sorry, Ms. Bowser, or for Mr. Lawson, but one of the questions I have is if we let them proceed with the with the housing element, and we pause on the hotel element, what guarantees do we have legally to keep them on the hook for the hotel? What either legal guarantees or conditional use guarantees, or what?
Hi, it's Joe Brick. Even though it says Michael Lawson under my face.
Oh, Brick, sorry.
So I guess if you're asking if we allowed the construction of the residential units, what guarantee would there be that the hotel would be developed? The answer would be none, unless we fashion some sort of condition that holds back on the issuance of the building permits for the residential units until the hotel is constructed. That's how it was originally.
So they can build 100% of the housing, and if the hotel isn't built, we don't issue them the certificates, correct?
Correct. Currently, the condition of approval allows us to hold off on issuing the final condition of the COOs until there's actually a hotel construction.
Yeah, so I would just add on to that just to give you a perspective for numbers, under the current condition, they could receive up to 99 certificates of occupancy before we would have to see vertical construction. I think the concern is that they've already been issued 126 permits. And so to only issue 100 or 99 would leave 27 units in sort of partial construction, waiting to receive certificates of occupancy. But the way that the revised condition is proposed is that they would want flexibility to at least get certificates of occupancy for all the units that they've pulled, so 126, and they would hold back 14 permits and not be issued those. So those buildings would never be, those permits would never be pulled, and that construction would never start until the hotel was well underway in its construction and being finalized. So
let me ask this question then: have they expressed to you their commitment to make sure that hotel is built?
Somewhat.
Okay.
I believe that they really, truly would like to see the project. I mean, I really, truly believe that they would love to see that project be built as it was intended to be built. I think the challenge has been securing financing in order to make it work, given the impacts that COVID has had on the hospitality industry and being able to move things forward. I think in all ideal, I think they would love to finish. They're just running into some issues.
And so, which leads me to my third and last question is, what would be maybe the intended, well, I sort of know what the intended consequences would be, but what would be any unintended consequences if, say, we went ahead and did this, but put a pause, we gave them, say, 3 years to see, to put the hotel there and just wait till the economy, corrects itself. Would there be any unintended consequences there? I mean, and we proceed with, doing something on that frontage, but we essentially give them 3 years of flexibility.
That we could still be back in the same place as we are right now. I mean, but I think no one really can know that. I think if we don't do something or consider doing something on the frontage to activate it in the meantime, some of the unintended consequences could just be, other illegal dumping and other challenges with that vacant property. It is fenced, but as we all know, we can fence as many vacant properties as we can throughout the city, and there's always breaches and issues that we've experienced in the city. So there are those challenges that, may happen if we don't have eyes and activate that space. But I think one of the benefits of doing something more temporary on that front is it still leaves it open for the possibility of being able to do something on that frontage as we had originally envisioned with the hotel and the commercial.
Okay, and then one last question, and I know I said my other question was the last one, but one last question. Do we have, and I understand this is COVID-19, but do we have other examples of other developments where, when it comes down to the wire here, that there's been last minute changes where we've been asked to make these kinds of changes at the last minute?
Sure. There's always examples of that. Yes. Or where a project changes slightly over time. I think that we've seen that in a few places, in a few occasions. And I think that this is slightly different to some degree than some of the other situations where maybe people, were trying to get out of other requirements, whether it was on-site affordable or what have you. I think in this particular case, it's slightly different, but yes, there are other examples where I know the council has been asked to weigh in on modifications to projects that they've changed from the original entitlement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other council questions. So I know we do have representatives of the developers here. We have a few of them. But I think that if we open the public hearing, hear any comments or questions from the public, and then go to the developers at the end of that, so that you can respond to the questions that have been raised by council and potentially the members of the public, if there are any who want to speak on this issue. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public speakers on this item?
So Mayor Halliday, we do have one now. We have attendees, and now we have one person who's wishing to speak, and that is Michael Freed. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and allow him to speak. Okay. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening again. I don't want to hold things up, so I just wanted to throw in maybe just a request for clarification. And I've heard this term before. I'm not really sure what it means or where the money goes, which is monies that are offered forward by the contractors in lieu of. Where does the money go? Is it held in escrow for some other criteria that it can be used for to, in this case, perhaps provide another area of the community with affordable housing, or, you know, how is that dealt with? What is basically what would be the percentage of, you know, what kind of money are we talking about? I just want some more, you know, a little more clarification about that.
I think you're asking about if the developer has paid fees in lieu of providing affordable housing, where does that money go?
In lieu fees of doing whatever else. Yeah. Just to get, just some clarification of how those fees are, where do they go?
Yeah. So
it's not certainly a slush fund that you
want to answer that, or?
That's what I'd like to know.
I think the city manager wants.
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer that. When we collect a number of in lieu fees, park fees, affordable housing fees, and those are set aside in trust funds and they're dedicated. They cannot be used for any other purposes than for what they've been collected for. With affordable housing funds in particular, we try to collect a significant amount of those funds, and then we'll issue a request for proposals to solicit proposals from different affordable housing developers to then come in and build affordable housing projects using those funds.
Okay, so they could be used in the future, for example, to that open space along the frontage of Mission Boulevard to perhaps retain a little bit more open space, and not really a park thing, but maybe if it's rezoned for commercial plus housing to be possibly, you know, low income or affordable housing along that stretch, and in lieu of, they would also be used to provide the tenants of some retail with some cuts in the rent or whatever, you know. So the other thing is, as they're held in a trust, does the trust gain some interest on it as they're being held in perpetuity for whatever?
Yes, it does.
So I heard yes. That's the answer, right?
Did somebody else want to speak on staff there? Okay, I'm Madam City Clerk. Are there any other public comments? I don't see any here.
No, Madam Mayor, we don't have any.
Close public comment, and I'm going to ask I think we have Mr. McCaig, Mr. Derby, Mr. Patel. Are you with us this evening from the developer? So whichever of you would like to step forward and perhaps make any comments you want to make to council about your project, but also if you want to answer some of the questions that have been raised.
Thank you, Mayor Halliday. Charles McCaig with MLC Holdings. It's nice to see you all after it's been a while, and it's a little strange doing this all virtually, but grateful for the opportunity to connect with the council in these crazy times. As staff already did a great job of sharing with you the history of this project. We worked very closely with staff over a couple of years to get this thing designed through the entitlement process, and we were frankly, as we got into this back when we started, the frontage of Mission Boulevard was sort of the big puzzle to solve. And we had a number of different ideas about what we thought would work. And at one point during the process, folks at community at the economic development department said, "Hey, have you met the? You guys should consider working with the Manchester folks. They own a hotel further down Mission Boulevard, and this could be an interesting opportunity." And so that started what was a really productive relationship. And we were extremely pleased throughout the process working with Ken Patel and his partners. Getting any mixed-use project through the design and entitlement process is never easy, and this one was no exception. But throughout that process, the guys at Manchester were super cooperative, easy to work with, and so we were thrilled when we got through the entitlement process. We ultimately closed on the former Ford dealership land, and Ken and his team were right there side by side with us, worked through all of the issues they had to get through with Marriott to get their support for this project. They stepped up at every turn when it came to the economics. And it's frankly for us, we were, up until we got to the point where we sit today, we were just thrilled with how things were going. Unfortunately, we're faced now with a portion of what we had envisioned for this site potentially being impossible. Certainly in the short run, that's the case. And we're happy to share with you the stones we've overturned to try to find a way to deliver today what we had planned yesterday. But we were happy when we came into this project to work with a group that had a local presence, to work with a group who was recommended to us by our friends at the city. And that was a really successful collaboration, and we're proud of it. None of us could have predicted that we'd be sitting here today after having, frankly, worked so hard to identify the right use for that location, that we'd be faced with a situation where it's fundamentally impossible to find financing for a hotel. The changes to that industry in the wake of COVID have been so dramatic that it's sort of, frankly, but when we use the word unprecedented, there is no comparison. There is no comparison with the 2008, 2009 recession. It's just never hit this hard. As it sits today, and I think maybe this will help folks understand a little bit, when we talk about how do we hold people's feet to the fire, the Manchester folks have committed and spent over $4 million trying to deliver this hotel thus far. That's a combination of purchasing land. That's work they had to do with Marriott. That's planning. That's taking the project all the way through construction design and CDs to the point where permits are ready to be pulled. And this is their business. This is what these guys do for a living. They have hotels. I think I had shared in our initial note to staff. They have hotels in Hayward. They have the Hampton Inn down the street that they operate. They just had finished construction pre-COVID on a new hotel at the Oakland Airport. They also have recently finished construction on one in Fremont. Those are hotels that they now have construction loans out on, but because of COVID, they can't get permanent financing on. Those hotels are now at risk because of that. The Hampton Inn is still struggling mightily with its occupancy levels. The hotel that's under construction across the street, the owner of that project is deathly afraid that, yes, they got their financing long before COVID hit. They had to start building. They had their construction financing. They don't know how they're going to get out of their construction financing. They don't know when they open what their occupancy levels are going to be. And so this isn't a situation. I think it's really important to distinguish what we've got here from somebody coming to the city and saying, hey, we want to change our affordable housing approach, or hey, we want to change this design feature. This isn't about sort of trying to amplify an economic situation and improve it a little bit. This is an existential issue. This is not, hey, we don't want to do a hotel. We have worked closely with a group that has invested over $4 million trying to get it here. And frankly, in some respects, I think this is another thing to keep in mind, the fact that they hadn't yet started construction may actually be a blessing here, because they would open a hotel or get stopped mid-construction with the financing side, where you could end up with a bankrupt scenario and a half-built structure. And I think that's another, there are no blessings here, but I guess if there is a mild silver lining, it's at least there are some options to think about what the right thing to do here is. So, in my discussions with staff and I know we've had conversations with some folks on the council just to sort of bring this issue to light. We stand as the guys who helped, bring the Manchester folks to the table. We are linked. We're not looking to be unlinked. We're merely trying to lessen what could be. It's already a bad situation. What we're asking for tonight is some flexibility to keep that bad situation from being just truly devastating. Because as we sit right now, to put a fine point on it, with the homes that are currently under construction, and I'm happy to share with you that if you guys want some visuals, I can maybe try to share my screen, but we have buildings that are under construction now that if we couldn't get occupancy permits for those buildings that are under construction, for which permits have been pulled, we're going to end up with vacant buildings. And that's a challenge in any circumstance. It then becomes sort of an amplified challenge when you've got the one tiny bright spot in our world right now is that people are finding opportunities to purchase and move into homes. We do have, our housing crisis hasn't dissipated during COVID. In fact, it's become something that's more important to folks. So that would be a pretty horrific situation, especially because of the potential long-term nature of the freeze in the hotel world. And so what we're really, our primary focus this evening is to secure some opportunity to complete those buildings, occupy them. We can mothball the balance of the project without having vacant structures because we haven't pulled those out of the ground yet. That would allow us to at least button it up. It's a far from ideal situation to leave the balance of the project unconstructed, but we recognize that that's sort of what we signed up for. We've got to solve the solution on the front and work together with the city and with Manchester to figure out the right thing to do there. But what we're really focused on tonight is let's not cause a scenario where we're inviting blight and crime and into a place that's already going to struggle a little bit here.
All right, Mr. McKay, I'm going to ask you to wrap up now, and we're going to have council comments, although there may be additional.
And if I might just very briefly, just particularly answer a couple of things for Councilmember Salinas, had some great questions. Just a couple little pieces. One question was sort of how do we hold feet to the fire here, as it were, and just to give you a sense of the economic ties we have. If we move forward and we secure the balance of these 126 occupancy permits, so we can move those families in, complete those buildings, button them up, we would still have 14 homes that we would not be able to construct. So that has an significant economic hook for us. There's still a lot of money invested that's not going to come out of the project. That's going to be sort of on hold. In addition, we also have over $5 million in performance bonds that the city holds for this project. So when we recorded our subdivision, our final subdivision map and our subdivision improvement agreement, we had to post those bonds. So those bonds are still out there and they'll be floating for the long term. So there's tens of millions of dollars of economic hook there that and we know that the only path towards getting through that and recovering that is going to be through solving something on that frontage. So that was one thing I wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to share.
All right, thank you. But yeah, we need to move on to council comments now, and we'll do so. And I see that Councilmember Mendel has his hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I have a bit to say about this, and I apologize, Mayor. I'll try to be as quick as I can. There's a bit of history with this site. It was a former Ford dealership, 100% commercial site, the entire site. during the mission form-based code review, we rezoned it for mixed use, but had a commercial overlay that said the front half, I believe it was the front 200 feet close to mission, must be commercial. It's about half the site, half. That's what the council said we wanted. This developer came in and proposed a 100% housing project. We said, no, we want commercial on the frontage. They worked with the city and, as was, relayed, found a hotel developer willing to build a hotel there, came back with a mixed use proposal that had a hotel, and the city made a whole bunch of compromises to get that hotel. It is not 200 feet of frontage that is commercial. It's less than that, so that they could add another 40 or so homes. The density is pretty high. Those townhomes are packed in there. There was a desire for a more attractive neighborhood, more parking, but we made some compromises because we wanted that hotel. There's no on-site affordable in this unit, in this development. Again, we were willing to make that compromise for the hotel, for the commercial frontage and the retail that would be part of that hotel building. That was the deal. And Mr. Derby, Mr. McKeague, you gave me personally your word that that hotel would get built. What you said at the time was that you had a hotel developer lined up and that you would be breaking ground on the hotel first. That's how eager they were to build, and that's how close you were to being ready to build it. And so you were fine with the condition that we put in place, which was to hold the last 40 units until the hotel was under construction, because you said that wasn't even going to be an issue. That's what you said. You're shaking, you're nodding your head, and I appreciate you acknowledging that fact. I have no sympathy. You said you were going to build the hotel first after we made all those compromises, and then you built 120 homes before breaking ground on the hotel. It is not our fault that you broke ground on more than you're allowed to occupy. That is your fault. So those 20 half-built or vacant buildings, that's on you, not on us. You knew about this condition. You were clear on it, and you decided to move forward anyway. You said the hotel would be built first, and it was not. This has been under construction for what, 18 months, 2 years? So you kind of went back on your deal, on your word, almost 2 years ago, not because of COVID. So I am not sympathetic to that BS excuse for why the plan is changing now. You delayed the construction of the hotel for whatever reason and decided, well, we won't worry about it. We'll move forward to the housing. And you know what? If the hotel falls through, we'll just come back to the city with exactly what you're doing tonight. No, absolutely no. There's no way in hell I'm going to support this. No way. That front third needs to be commercial. The only leverage that we have to ensure that that happens is the 40 units out of 140. They get to build 100 for free, but the last 40 were contingent upon building that commercial property. That's the only leverage we have, and they're asking us to give away 2/3 of it. I mean, what do you think we're stupid? Come on. You want a different plan? That's fine. I'm willing to be flexible. You want to come back with a different commercial option? You want to delay it for a couple of years? Okay, I get it. If that's what's needed, that's fine. But there's no way I'm going to give you, I am not personally going to vote to give you more of the townhomes and hope that this time you keep your word. You know, we got burned on the cannery. That was supposed to be a mixed use project. Mr. McKeague, you were involved in that. And they built the housing and then didn't build the commercial. We got burned 3 times with Eden Shores. And it wasn't until this council, the previous council, finally said, okay, no more houses, none, zero, zilch, until you build the commercial. Then we got the Costco. Within like a matter of 2 months, magically, it penciled out to build a commercial property when we said, no, we're going to hold you to the deal you made. So no, I'm going to hold you to the deal you made, build a commercial property. Can't do a hotel? Fine. You can come back with a proposal to build a commercial office building, something else, some other commercial use. I'm willing to be flexible and reasonable there, but I'm not just going to give away all the power we have to hold you to this project after we've already made all the compromises that I already listed. No. Thank you, Mayor.
Did you wish to make a motion?
Well, I'm not going to, I don't think, so a question to our attorney present. I would love to make a motion to deny the change, but it seems like that's sort of a non-action. So is that even an appropriate motion for me to make to Mr. Brick?
A motion to deny staff's recommendation, that would be fine.
It's okay, fine, so moved.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. So the motion to deny the request for amending the conditions of approval has been made by Councilmember Mendel and seconded by Councilmember Lamnon. I see that Councilmember Zermania wishes to make a comment.
Yes, I do. I'm there. I am. Yeah, I was actually thinking about the Eden Shores, where we kept saying, "Where's the commercial? When's the retail? When is that coming in?" And they kept building houses and houses. Well, you know, if you're a builder, of course, you know, houses are more. They help the bottom line a lot more than a commercial, et cetera. I really don't want to see any more houses on that property. I know they could all be affordable, but no. I want to see retail. I want to see a hotel. Now we have 31 hotels. I think that was the last count, and 4 more in the pipeline. If it's not a hotel, maybe it can be something else. I don't know. Maybe it can be, who knows what, I mean, maybe it could be a mini golf course, whatever the case, but we need retail. I really think we can't have all of Mission Boulevard full of condominiums. I am worried about this vacant lot being vacant for 3 years. I think we ought to give them 3 years to come up with something or build something. But the idea of something temporary, pop up, the taco trucks, whatever the case may be, something, some kind of a landscaping, so that I don't want this property to be surrounded by an ugly chain link fence. I really do not want to see that on Mission Boulevard. That's a very nice place there. So, So I think allowing what has been built and holding on to the 40 that need to be built. I did speak with Charles, Mr. McKee. Yeah, but I want to see retail, and I want to see something on that thing. No more housing on that property. And I will support the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize. I am grandma and auntie sitting with too many dogs to count. So hence all the chaos going on right now. I just, this project is frustrating, and I understand the challenges, but also I want to see something for the benefit of the community, something that's, I don't know exactly what. Obviously, we have challenges. We know the issue with the hotel, but I definitely don't want to lose sight of having something valuable for our community. So I will support the motion, and I also have to say that I am disappointed that this isn't panning out. A lot of the statements Councilmember Mendel made, specifically because I remember being in a meeting in room 2A, probably like 15 years ago, and all these promises were made for the cannery project. I remember there was talks about a grocery store, a coffee shop, a history walk at the park. I mean, the list went on, and none of that ever came into fruition. So it is our responsibility on the council to keep our word and our commitment. I understand that there's challenges and we need to be a little bit flexible, but I'm not willing to let up on that. I really want to see something valuable on this site. It looks like if the motion is approved tonight to deny staff's recommendation, I am asking that we have a work session to determine what can be done. In the interim, I do want to see that space be activated. So that would be my recommendation moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines in terms of holding you to the commitment you made. We all made it crystal clear. This has to have commercial. There was no, anyway, we're here now. And right, I'm not supporting what's being asked. I really want to see an extended stay hotel. It's something we don't have in this city. I think it's still even in this time of COVID, product that is needed, even for the state or county programs in the interim. Maybe it's a partnership with Stay City, maybe it's a partnership with the university and partly a job training program for their hospitality program. Maybe it's an incubator for business students. Maybe it's a company I am willing to be flexible about what that commercial is. I think, we went in with a hotel. There's good logic there given the proximity to the university. And I absolutely acknowledge the COVID situation in terms of what that does to financing. And so having the work session, I think in the Economic Development Committee, I'm not sure if that's what you were referring to, Councilmember Marquez, but that seems like a reasonable place to start that conversation. Open to feedback about that. But, as is proposed in the staff report, to go to the Economic Development Committee and really vet what the options are, that makes sense to me. I mean, maybe it's a business hub for people that are not able to work from home but want to cut their commutes. The recreation use that Councilmember Zermenio said is really interesting. We've talked about that a long time ago, of not for necessarily the site, but the need for more recreation opportunities. Who knew when we approved this that automotive would actually be back on the table? If that's possible this close to housing, I don't know, but I'm certainly open to, as Councilmember Mendel said, the flexibility about the commercial, but the commercial it must be. And lastly, I'm also potentially open to a little bit of flexibility in terms of when fees get paid, when bond financing gets released, if it gets to the commercial, in acknowledgement of the current tightening of capital. But again, commercial it must be, and I'm not willing to give away our leverage to get that to happen. Does it need to be prefab instead of stick construction so it decreases cost? And then just circling back on the pop-up, two things. One, it is not okay that this place becomes blighted. It is your property. And so it is not anybody else's fault if the property starts to have dumping or blight or other issues that you're raising. I agree with you that we don't want them. And as the property owner, we expect you to maintain your property. The second thing is that I think the pop-up idea is really creative and I appreciate it. I'm not so interested in it here because I want to see the commercial come to fruition. But the idea that the development properties do sit fallow for some period and that they could be activated with as is being described, food trucks and outdoor retail, outdoor stuff, even pop-up tiny home village that moves from site to site and does some of that site security piece that we're talking about. I'm open to all of those ideas, but this site needs to stay active, it needs to stay safe, and it needs to have a plan to finish the commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. So to the developers, I just want to say I think I probably have a fresh slate with you guys. So I'm not exactly sure what went on. I do appreciate Councilmember Mendel's clarity on kind of what the vision was and things like that. So I do appreciate that. I just want to be very clear, at least for me, I'm definitely open to having more discussion on what that commercial property should look like. And I do believe that there should be a balance as he was mentioning. Me personally, I would love to see a union grocery shop that sells fresh organic foods. I think that personally, I know I have difficulty even going to a grocery store anywhere close to me that has pretty solid food. Like I end up going to Target, right? And that's not really a grocery store. So it's very frustrating. So I would just convey that message to you all that if you guys can find something like that. I also personally like a little bit more parking. I know that I state that on the council, so I just want to state that again. But I do believe, the vision that I have in regard to the commercial piece is to improve the quality of life of our residents in that area, not just for the folks that are purchasing your development property, but take a look at that area. It has changed in the course of a couple of years. Its vision, its future is changing as well as we speak. So I definitely, maybe you all can do some analysis, some outreach to some of the local neighbors and so forth there to see what may be needed. And to our economic development team, who I do believe should be a part of this as well, I definitely want to see if we can ensure that they are proactive in helping this developer find something useful and needed for this city. Again, with the very much clean focus on quality of life. So I know we've had a lot of options from all the council members here. I would have to say that, I think that you guys need to go back to the drawing board as well. Again, as priority for me, it's always, affordable housing, then the economic development piece, which is, the commercial space. And for that, it has to equate to an addition to quality of life. So if you guys can do that, I'd appreciate that. Again, I appreciate everybody's comments, and this is without any background knowledge really on this. So this is as clean as you guys will get.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Salinas.
I was thinking, a great idea for that site would be a Ford auto dealership. That was a little bit of a joke.
Yeah.
Here on my, when I was looking at my, my list of priorities, I put the number one priority was a hotel. And I know there's probably, some folks out there right now watching us thinking, don't let go of the commercial element. And I know you guys are not letting go of that. But just to add a little bit more of the history, I know when we were going through the form-based codes, and in fact, there was another development, I think it was on the near the Chevrolet site that I think we even, and that was a contentious vote too. That was a very spirited conversation, if I'm not mistaken, when that came about. I know that council has struggled as to what to do along that corridor, and we were excited when we were getting two new hotels there. I know Cal State East Bay was incredibly excited, and I know the athletic department up there, and I know a lot of families during graduation time got really excited when we said, "Hey, there are going to be two new hotels down there." So, I do want to, I will support the motion, and I do look forward to, having this come back to us and figuring out a way what we can do in the interim until we get a hotel built there. At the same time, not letting go of the commercial vision for that space, and I think, and I'm sure you guys do too, that this is going to be a big catalyst site. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we even designated this a catalyst site before before all of this began to be, even before the form-based codes came in. So most of this area we were hoping that we could put commercial there. I know we let go, we put residential there, and we got pushback from the community. I know the surrounding neighborhood pushed back on us on that. And but some of the emails I've received and some of the calls I've gotten over the weekend, I think, for me, the the agreements that we've also made, not only we've made it with you, but we've also made it with the neighborhood, the surrounding neighborhood. And I think the neighborhood, at the end of the day, I listen to a lot of people. I listen to the developers, of course, and staff. But I think at the end of the day, I'm also listening to the neighborhood, because the neighborhood is the one is going to, live next door, and they're the one that's going to be impacted the greatest. So anyways, I'll be supporting the motion, and I will be looking forward to ongoing discussion. I'm sure Mr. Kling and Mr. Derby will be, and maybe Mr. Patel, although they're going to be calling us and, working out details. And, and I look forward to the work session when we come back. But and I also look forward to speaking to the neighborhood. I know the neighborhood will. I know there's a couple of people up there on Bunker Hill area that I know they're tracking this every time it comes up. And I know they're tracking this every day. So, anyways, with those comments made, I appreciate the conversation, and I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a really enlightening discussion. And I think that I have a lot of sympathy for the situation right now regarding COVID, and we still don't know how long we're going to be in the shutdown. We don't know what the ultimate impact and how long it's going to take for the economy to recover, although we do hear the economy actually is doing well. Parts of the economy, like the stock market, if there's a potential to invest in the stock market, there must be potential to invest in commercial development too. I do think the hospitality industry has clearly been hit very hard, and we don't know for how long to come. And it is a shame when we were in the midst of developing a few new hotels along Mission Boulevard. So, I understand the position the developers are in. However, it's not like we're saying you can't build. You already have built and sold houses in this development. You have the right to build up to 100. So we're talking about the difference between leaving 14 houses unbuilt or leaving 40 houses unbuilt. That was the original agreement. I think we do sympathize. I hope that this discussion does lead to, some strong collaboration with us, with our city team, with our city economic development department to look for a solution, an alternative. I think we would all still like to see the hotel, and maybe like a miracle, as some have said, the present pandemic crisis will evaporate someday and soon, and we'll all be back to normal. I don't know that any of us expect really that quick a resolution. However, we are going on living, and we have to continue to watch out for the future of the city. One thing I don't want to see on this commercial site is more housing right on Mission Boulevard. We have put more than I would like to see. And I know we need housing, and I'm very supportive of the housing that we're building on appropriate sites. But Mission Boulevard is our commercial strip, and we really, I think, have already given up probably a little more than we should have for housing along there, although some housing is okay in a strip. We're envisioning this as a strip that will, as an area that will become lively, and we're looking at, we already have done a lot of improvements on the road. We're bringing, hopefully more public transportation in. We're making it easy for people to walk and ride bikes. We are building, in addition to these 100 homes that, will be built as part of this development, and possibly 140 ultimately. And we have built other new housing right in this very area back from Mission Boulevard, but it's going on all up and down. And so there are a lot of new residents. There's going to be potential for those residents are going to need neighborhood serving commercial. So I think we should begin looking at that. the hotel industry isn't going to come back really quickly. And I hope that we can work together. I really want to thank Councilmember Mendel on this for starting us off and reminding us. I mean, I remember this project too, but not in the amount of detail that you remembered it, and the different, the promises made, and the, what we were basing our approval on, to actually reduce the amount of commercial that we had reserved. And I actually go back and remember some of the discussions we had when we were even doing the form-based codes about this property. And definitely we want to see commercial along Mission Boulevard. And I don't think 14 houses are leverage enough really for us to think that we will ever see that. So, again, thank you all for the discussion. I will be joining the rest of the council, it sounds like, in supporting the motion. And hopefully we can move on from there, work with these developers to see this project through in the way that we had originally envisioned, or some other acceptable way. I will add, though, I certainly am open and would like to potentially see further discussion about the temporary uses that might happen if we have to wait a while and come up with a new commercial plan, or wait a while for the hotel. And I think that could come back to the Economic Development Committee, and then potentially back to the full council to talk a little more about the pop-up idea. I also think the idea of some recreational use would be good. We do need that. There are a lot of new homes being built. There are potentially a lot of kids in those homes, young people that need outlets and things to do. So that's another thing to think about in terms of what ultimately could happen. But with that, I'll end my comments, and I will ask so the motion was made by Councilmember Mendel and seconded by Councilmember Lamnon to basically deny the request for amendment of the conditions of approval. And Madam City Clerk, are you clear on everything? And are you ready to call a roll call vote?
Mayor, prior to that.
Who is that?
Aisha.
Oh, Aisha. Councilmember Wahab. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
To our city manager and our planning department, I just would like to understand the steps. Let's say this motion passes. What are the steps afterwards? I just want to make sure that the developer is clear on it, and so is council.
Sure. So based on what I'm understanding the vote to be, the conditions as originally approved would hold. So the max number of certificates of occupancy that we could issue would be 99 unless the hotel pulled their permits and began vertical construction. At that point, we could continue processing certificates of occupancy if the hotel moved forward and was under construction, and then we would hold the very last one until it was complete. In the interim, what I'm understanding is that for the moment, we would hold, so they're under construction. So the reality is they're under construction for more of those units. We just would not issue certificates of occupancy for more than 99. And then my understanding is that we would continue to work with the developer to come up with either a temporary or a permanent plan that still involves commercial to some degree, as I understand it. It sounds like there's at least a majority that would be comfortable if it was not a hotel, but was still some viable commercial that provided, an amenity to the community that was community serving. So I think that's it, although that's a big jumble of words, but I think that's the bulk of what I heard. So the next steps would be we would work with them, and we'd come back and maybe do a work session with the Council Economic Development Committee or the full council if that was a desire, but definitely with the CEDC. And then we would work with them to either come up with a permanent plan and or an interim plan if it looks like it'll be a really long time to come up with a more permanent plan, or if it looks like the hotel.
What is the timeline in your mind, in your experience?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What is the timeline in your experience or in your mind?
So I would imagine in the next couple of months, we'd probably start talking with the developer, figure out what it is that they would like to do or what they think might be viable, and then work on bringing back a work session with the CEDC to kind of talk through that. Is sort of my guess. So it might be possible that we have a work session before the end of this calendar year to work that out. Might involve both interim uses and or a permanent use on that site at the same time. If it's something different, we'll have to look at what the zoning permits and what that looks like, and may have to be re-entitled. But I would imagine eventually we'll have to come back to Planning Commission and/or Council for future development on that frontage if it's something other than what we originally entitled, which was the hotel and commercial.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarity.
Sure.
All right. Councilmember Mendel?
Yeah, thank you. Just very briefly, my frustration aside, I want to repeat, I'm willing to have a conversation about what other commercial uses, could be an option. And I think the Economic Development Committee is the right place for that, not a work session. We've had some really good conversations with that developer in that setting before. We just need to sort of hold to our commitments when we come to an agreement. That would be my desire. So thank you.
All right. So now, Councilmember Salinas, is that a hand?
Yeah. Just I'm sorry. And if we can, I say this with a great deal of pause, but if we can, I don't know what's on the next CDC agenda, but the sooner we can sort of get through this, I think, or put this on the agenda, I think that would be great.
We will work to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. With that, are we ready to have our city clerk do a roll call vote on this motion? All right. Let's go.
Thank you. Councilmember Lamnin.
Yes.
Councilmember Marquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries with 7 aye votes. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this property again, maybe sometime soon at Economic Development Committee. With that, you know what? I'm going to ask if we can take a very brief break and come back to do the other 2 items. So don't end your Zoom meeting, but just we're going to go off camera for a couple, let's say 5 minutes and come back. It's 9:50, so 9:55 back on Zoom. Everybody, thank you.
That's what happens when Dustin comes on. We all take off.
I'm the party killer.
Sorry, Dustin, but we'll be back in 5 minutes. So it's 9:55. I'm going to ask everybody who's back to please turn on their cameras so I can see that people are there. I'm only, so let's see, 1, 2, 5. Councilmember Mendel and Mr. Clausen, are you with us now? Okay.
I will text him. Oh, I think he's just unmuted himself to come back.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Okay, and I think Councilmember Wahab is here because I did see her. And then Councilmember Mendel was the other one. Okay. Councilmember Salinas is here. Councilmember Mendel? Give him another.
Was it a solid 5 minutes?
It was a solid 5 minutes, yeah.
That was by so fast.
55. There he
Sorry,
is.
Mayor, I'm back. Thank you for the
All
break.
right. So I think we have everybody that we absolutely need at the moment, hopefully. I know the city manager is around because I'm in the same building with her and she's across the hall there. So
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, you're there. Yes, I see. Your picture is there. I mean, you're really there. All right. So we're going to go on now to item number 16, which involves the California Cross Point High School TEFRA hearing. And I will just let staff go ahead with this one. So, Mr. Clausen.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. You've essentially said the majority of what I'm going to sort of present here. This is a relatively routine item. We do have a representative from California Cross Point High School. Mr. Hum is the superintendent at the school, and he can probably speak to the project far more than I can. I am aware, they're trying to use the city's ability to issue some tax exempt bonds to create do some work and be able to purchase some equipment, install it, and make some improvements on their campus here within the city. Aside from that, the bonds that will be issued will have no consequence on either the city's credit rating or, they will have no liability to repay these bonds should Crosspoint default. It's essentially, after tonight, there's very little for the city to do in relation to these bonds should council support the ability for the academy, or I'm sorry, the Crosspoint, to be able to issue these bonds using the city's tax exempt status. So,
okay.
What we're asking tonight is for City Council to adopt a resolution to approve their ability to use the city's tax exempt status to issue the $29 million in bonds that they will secure and collateralize.
Yes. You might elaborate a little bit more on what these bonds are going to be used for at that school. And we have all gone through some TEFRA hearings. Usually it is housing that we're talking about. And so, but I understand we have in the past approved TEFRA approved bonds through this process for non-housing. And I think this is a combination, but if you or, if you could elaborate a little bit on what these bonds are going to be used for.
The project, sure. I will actually give way to Superintendent Hum. I think he's got a much better idea as to what the funds will actually be going towards after the bonds are issued. So,
well, all right. I'm going to ask first okay, that's a question. Let's get other council if council has questions, and then I'll open the public hearing and he can speak. So any other, council member Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a quick question. I know the school is relatively new to the community. They've already made a huge impact, but I'm wondering what their lease agreement is. Are they leasing or do they own the site? My understanding is they were leasing, but if that can be clarified, please.
Yeah, I don't have that answer. Maybe it can be clarified when Superintendent Hom comes on.
We'll wait for him to answer that. And I saw, yes, Councilmember Mendel.
Thank you, Mayor. So there was a question submitted in writing, and I'm just going to paraphrase it. I won't read it exactly, but the school's website is a statement of faith. Is this funding in compliance with the First Amendment? Will other faiths receive a similar amount of funding? Will other schools receive a similar, type of funding? And my understanding of the answer, and Mr. Clausen, I'd like you to correct me if I don't get this right. The answer is basically that there is no funding being given to this institution by the city or any other government. We're simply providing a vehicle for them to issue a bond that will be purchased by private sector entities that they will then use to build their school. And so there's no public dollars involved at all in any way, in any shape, in any form. Is that right?
That's 100% accurate. Essentially, the city is simply acting as a conduit so that the California Crosspoint will have the ability to issue tax-exempt bonds and hopefully achieve a lower rate and be able to do, what I think many would see as a project that will benefit the community.
And then I'm guessing that other educational institutions would have the same opportunity to use this same conduit to do something similar if they so chose, right?
Correct. I will say, the caveat that I'll add here is it's available to non-public schools. Public schools have the ability to issue tax-exempt bonds, so there would be no reason for them to go through the TEFRA process. They have the ability to do it. It's just a different process.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, Councilmember Wahab.
Yes, Director Clausen, and just to kind of piggyback off of Councilmember Mendel's questions, this is a religious school, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and do they pay property taxes?
I believe that they do not, or they have an exemption as a not-for-profit organization. So they may pay a reduced rate, but probably have some exemptions similar to that that would be extended to potentially a faith-based place of worship.
Okay. And currently, how many students do they have, and what is the expansion in their mind of doing this?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not aware. I will go ahead and let Superintendent Hom answer that.
I'll hear that. Okay. I just want to get the questions out there. So, did you have any more?
Sure.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Though.
Okay. And then I just want to clarify that the ability to apply for these bonds requires approval by the local governing agency to say it's okay for them to do it. And it really is, it rests with their status as a nonprofit, not necessarily, or not as their status as a faith organization, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. With that, I'm seeing no other council questions, and I'm going to open public hearing on this item. Madam City Clerk, we don't have any requests to speak on this item, do we?
No, Madam Mayor. Okay. We have attendees, but no one has requested to speak.
Yes, I see that. So I'm going to recognize Mr. Hom to answer the questions and say anything else you want to say to us about this project. Go ahead, Mr. Hom.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Halliday and members of the City Council. Again, my name is Robin Hom. I'm the Superintendent of California Crosspoint Academy. Thank you for the opportunity to come before the Hayward City Council again. Many of you remember that in 2006, we came before you, and I came before you on behalf of the school. And with your help, we were able to purchase. So we did purchase the site and move into the former Heald Technical College on Industrial Boulevard. At that time, we were just a high school of 200 students. Since that time, we have grown on average 20% per year. And we've added a middle school, upper elementary, and a preschool. We are here tonight asking for the city's authorization so we can take part in the tax-exempt bond financing, which actually we already have on our site, which is what we use to purchase the building. We would like to do another bond issuance that would allow us to add 2 new buildings on the site as originally envisioned in 2006 when we received approval. The first building would be a 3-story structure with a preschool and lower elementary grades on the first floor. And the second and third floors would be dormitory rooms for our international students. The second building would be an event center that has an assembly hall and gymnasium. And with these 2 buildings, we will be able to expand our school to be a complete preschool through high school program on our campus, including international student dorms and a place for assemblies, performing arts, and athletics. To answer the question about enrollment, we are currently 353, which is preschool and then grades 3rd through 12th. With these new buildings, we could increase enrollment. The only thing that only the first floor has an increased enrollment. And so we would go in terms of our current capacity. When Heald College was there, the occupancy limit was 1,100. As I mentioned, we are now at 353. With the additional buildings, we would have additional occupancy load to probably add about another 200 students. We have approval right now in zoning to go up to 600 according to our current conditions. And if we wanted to go beyond 600 students, then we would have to get a new traffic mitigation study. We are proud of that our student body is growing, with Hayward residents actually being the largest area of growth. One example is the number of students from the Stonebrae community, which has expanded from 4 to 30 in the past 3 years. Our school also invests over $500,000 a year in tuition assistance to promote educational equity and access to all students. Your help in adding these 2 buildings to our campus will greatly benefit many students in Hayward and the surrounding community. And so on behalf of our students, parents, teachers, and our entire school community, we want to thank you for your continuous and ongoing support, and I'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have.
All right, I think you have answered some of them, but I'm going to call on Councilmember Salinas, Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
I had no answer or no questions, but if there weren't any other questions, I was going to move the item with some comments.
So I'm going to close public comment on this item, seeing that I don't see any other hands raised. So go ahead and we'll move to.
Well, I just wanted to thank Dr. Hom for coming here this evening and staying up at a late hour. It's always nice to be able to be in a situation or in a position to support our local schools, particularly Crosspoint. I mean, your school, is sort of the classic story. You went out there, you started small here in Hayward. I know you have other sites, and I know, but you came to Hayward, you started small, and you built on your success. And the word out on the street is your school is a great school. I know families that have kids in your school, and they've spoken really highly about it. I have met alumni of your school, and I know that you have a strong alumni base, and you really do have a really strong support community at your school. So, anyways, with that said, I'll be pleased to move the item.
Second.
Okay. Seeing no other council members wishing to comment, the item has been moved by Councilmember Salinas, seconded by Councilmember Zermano. I will just add that I appreciate that you have offered your school as a place that we have held some community meetings out there, and and wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for that. It really doesn't have anything to do with what you're asking us to do here, but and I think Councilmember Zermano wants to make a comment.
Just one quick note. One of the students at Cross Point is a member of the Hayward Youth Commission.
Good. Okay. Yes, we try to get a good representation. Thank you for offering that. So with that, and no other further comments, I'll ask, the motion was made by Councilmember Martinez, seconded by Councilmember Zermano. Madam City Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermano.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Wow. That took a lot less time than the last item, but thank you for staying forward. And we'll move now on to our last item, our last legislative business item on the agenda, item number 17, City of Hayward fiscal year 2021 operating budget, not the entire budget, but we are being asked to amend this budget to appropriate funds from the enterprise funds to cover costs related to personnel changes in the utilities division of the Department of Public Works. And I assume we are going to hear from Public Works Director, Mr. Ameri, if he is still with us.
Yes, with you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Good evening. I'm going to make a brief presentation tonight. Thank you for introducing the item. As the work in water and wastewater has grown and grows, current staffing in utilities is not really commensurate with the division's duties and responsibilities. The changes that we are proposing tonight are going to address core functions, strategic priorities, dealing with new regulations, and maintaining our high customer service level. These changes were intended for inclusion in FY21 budget, but for whatever reasons related to COVID mostly, they were not. After the budget adoption, City Manager supported us taking this item to Budget and Finance Committee. We did so. The committee supported some existing changes that we were proposing, but adding 2 positions, they requested for more information, and that is what is coming before you tonight. I'm pleading tonight that this not be postponed to FY22 because it will have significant consequences for us. So what we are going to ask you to do, is to optimize the current staffing in operations and maintenance by adding 4 FTEs, but deleting 3.5 FTEs. On the engineering side, utilities engineering, we are asking to add 2 new positions of engineers. This is going to result in net addition of 2.5 FTEs, and it is going to have a combined fiscal impact of about $520,000, overwhelming majority of it on the enterprise side. So the description of the changes is that we are asking to add a senior utility leader who is going to be in charge of managing the new $14 million AMI system, and also manage the cross-connection control and backflow testing in-house. This was something that was for years contracted out. In the past few years, we have trained our meter readers and others to be able to do this work, and this work is being done in-house. We are going to eliminate 0.5 FTE so-called meter readers. They are not meter readers. They are basically customer service technicians in charge of not only tending to 35,000 meters that we have, but also provide customer service to our customers in the field. We are also going to change a utility worker sewer to a utility leader in sewer. By doing that and using an existing utility worker in sewer, we are going to build a new crew that can attend to maintenance of our sewer pipelines. On the administrative side, we are deleting an administrative secretary position and adding an administrative supervisor to improve communication, management of workflow, and department-wide coverage. The cost on the side that I mentioned with maintenance and administration is $92,000 impact in enterprises and $8,000 impact on general fund side. On the engineering side, as I mentioned, senior utilities engineer is a position that we are asking for. With improvements that we need to do to water and sewer infrastructure, especially at the wastewater treatment plant, this position is going to be responsible for a lot of projects. On the water resources side, we are asking for a water resources engineer, senior water resources engineer, to develop the water supply portfolio, including recycled water, which we have implemented phase 1 of, and emergency supply, conservation, and groundwater, which is very, very important to us and to the future of the city. The impact from this is going to be, these two positions is going to be $420,000, all of it in the enterprise side. So delaying these positions, as I said, is going to have impacts. I'm not going to go over all of it right now, but we have projects at the water pollution control facility to the tune of about $80 million, and they have to be finished by 2025. Engagement with other agencies, East Bay Mud, with Alameda County Water, with BOSCA, with APPT. We need to have workforce that are trained, they are technical, and can hold their own. Our groundwater has value of at least tens of millions of dollars. We need to be able to protect it. We are dealing with neighboring agencies that have really high technical skills. We should be able to work with them and protect our water resources. It's also good to have these positions because we have lower level assistant engineer and associate engineers, and they can get promoted to these positions rather than moving to other agencies, like we have lost some engineers to other agencies. As far as economic development, economic impact goes, this is going to allow us to better maintain our water and sewer infrastructure, which is critical to economic development. On the fiscal side, as I said, the total impact is $520,000 on a budget of exceeding $90 million. So the impact is going to be approximately 0.5% on the budget, or about 20 cents or so on a monthly rate for the water side and the sewer side. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Sorry. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alex, for the report. I know these are a lot of issues we've spoken about in the infrastructure committee with regard to the CIP project. So I understand the need. I understand this has been vetted through our budget and finance committee. I just want to make sure, I know we're eliminating positions to offset some of the cost of this position, but I want to make sure no one is being laid off. Can you just clarify and speak to that?
No one is going to lose their jobs as a result. They are going to actually see promotional opportunities. When we are, let's say, eliminating a sewer worker and we are adding a sewer leader in sewer maintenance, that's an opportunity for one of the sewer workers to be promoted to the higher position. And the same goes with the administrative secretary.
And what about the meter readers?
That half a position is already vacant, and that will be eliminated.
Okay. And then can you help me understand? I know the bulk of the funding is from enterprise. There is a portion out of the general fund. How is that determined and why is it not all in the enterprise fund?
Yeah, because the secretary, the administrative secretary, provides services not only to utilities. You know, she's my assistant, so she provides services to engineering and transportation side too. There is a small portion that is supported by general fund.
It's under 9,000, correct? I think
Correct. It's 8,200.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you. This kind of drives the point that I know I've been making for a while, is streamlining the positions. So I know we do add deletes, but if we're, alternately staffed positions, positions where promotions are easy, or there's let's say a associate level, a journey level, and then a senior level. If we can streamline that a little bit more in our city, are we working on that within your department, Director Mary? And the reason why I ask is because your department has a huge disparity in regards to the type of work that's being done.
So almost every position in the department has an opportunity for advancement. We hire, let's say and I don't like this title, but at the laborer level, let's say maintenance worker level, and they get promoted to utility worker, and from there to utility leader, to senior utility leader, to supervisor and manager. That same level is available on the water side. At the wastewater treatment plant, we start with operator in training, basically, and then it goes to operator, and then lead operator, and supervisor, and then manager. So these positions are available. What we are doing here is actually providing for more of that opportunity in the utility maintenance side for sewer.
Okay. And I just want to say, I do appreciate your presentations. It's always very clear as to what you're adding, what you're deleting, and so forth. So I genuinely do appreciate that. And the fiscal line numbers are very clear too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. Yes, I'll add my appreciation for the thoughtfulness of this report and the additional information since it was presented to Budget and Finance. Just a couple questions. I appreciate that there was a service that was originally contracted and has now been brought into the agency. Generally speaking, I'm very much in favor of that. As you know, but kind of given the current economic status, as well as, mostly given the current economic status, I have to ask, for the construction improvements, I know that's a huge project and I know it needs some additional support. Would this be a good opportunity for a contract project manager as opposed to a permanent employee?
We can do that too. We are, as you know, we always, or most of the time, go out and farm out the design and construction of our projects. Earlier tonight, you approved a $1.5 million professional services contract for a $20 million water and sewer replacement this year. This is almost unprecedented. But Council has directed us to increase our replacement of water and sewer lines. So we need to have not only outside contractors and outside consultants, but also to have staff in-house to be able to manage outside contractors and consultants. We have had other projects such as our Recycle Water Phase 1, a $29 million project that is just coming to an end. We are going to have to work on Phase 2 and so on. We are working on groundwater management, which we didn't have 4 years ago. Now it has grown into groundwater sustainability plan. We are paying more attention to this really important resource that is under Hayward, and other agencies are trying to exploit it and and take advantage of it. So all of these require staff, require engineers and others, technical staff, to be able to help us to develop, to protect, and to meet the requirements that council has determined for us as goals.
Sure, and there's a lot on your plate, but I think there may be. I'd be interested if there's whether or not there might be an opportunity to sort of. There are two different positions. One is the groundwater management and the recycled water, which kind of I see as a long-term thing, and then there's the project management, which certainly there's always projects, but is it, something that at least while we're having this financial crisis, does it make sense for that to be contracted? So
absolutely, and these two positions are not enough to manage the $80 million, design and construction over the next 5 years. We'll have to have outside help for that particular project.
Okay, that's helpful. And then can you help me understand a little bit about the urgency of the administrative supervisor? I understand the logic for the position itself, but we've been asked to do all of these before or outside of the budget process. I realize that wasn't the original intent, but that's where we are now. So what's the urgency for the admin supervisor position?
So we combined the two departments 2 years ago. We had a public works department, engineering and transportation. Then we had utilities and environmental services. We combined these departments together. We have two administrative secretary, one on the utilities department side, one in engineering side. Having two with different responsibilities does not make a whole lot of sense. We have to have one for better communication, better coordination, and we are going to ask you to eliminate one of the positions of admin secretary and elevate it slightly to admin supervisor, the same as it is in, let's say, maintenance services or in fire department and so on, to allow for better coordination, better communication. And the cost impact is very limited.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you. Lower my hand. Alex, three things. So let's see. Thank you for a good presentation. Thank you for allowing or presenting promotion possibilities to our employees. And thank you for not laying off anybody. And there's one more. Taking care of our water certainly is very important. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other council questions. I see our attendee list has diminished greatly since the beginning of the meeting, and I didn't see that there were any hands. Madam City Clerk, do we have any? I'm going to open public comment on this item. Madam City Clerk, do we have anyone who? Who wishes to speak?
No, Madam Mayor. I'm actually double checking again. And I know, as you mentioned, we have about 5 attendees, but no one has requested to speak at this moment.
All right, then I'm going to close public comment. I just saw Councilmember Marquez's hand. I don't know whether you had a question or we're ready
to move the item, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, the item has been moved by Councilmember Marquez, seconded by Councilmember Zermeño. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll for the vote?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Lamnin.
With regret, no.
Councilmember Marquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes and 1 no vote. I'm sorry,
6 aye votes.
6 and 1 is 7. So yes, 6 aye votes and 1 no vote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Okay. And now that brings us to comments from our city manager.
I just had one brief comment. I wanted to do a final push for people to respond to the census. Hayward is actually doing fairly well. You can see, I don't know if you can see here, probably backwards, but our self-response rate is at 70%, which means people who have self-selected to go on, either return the postcard, go online, respond to the census. California overall is at 68.3%. And there are census workers who are going out and following up with individuals who have not responded to the census yet, and they've been able to reach 90% of the non-respondents. So we are pretty grateful for that, but I wanted to just do one last push and encourage folks to, if someone from the census comes to your door, to please answer and respond to the census, or go ahead and go online and respond that way. So that was my update this evening. Other than that, welcome back to the fall, and good to see everyone again.
Thank you. Council reports. Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. So one, I would like to say welcome back as well. I appreciate it. I do also want to thank the staff, our city manager, and leadership in regard to the response of COVID and, the housing issue, the moratorium, the testing, you pretty much name it, the city of Hayward as a whole. So I really do want to start that off. I do appreciate the comments in regards to the census and those that own apartment complexes and so forth. I know that a lot of census folks are trying to reach out and get past some gated communities. If you guys can help with that, I know our city staff are working on that as well. The thing that I do want to bring up for council to consider a reconsideration of the land use application for the Costco Fueling Center on A Street. The city attorney has informed me that if 4 total council members support the reconsideration this evening, the official vote to bring the item back for reconsideration would be agendized for council approval on September 22nd. The public hearing would be renoticed for a meeting in October. I would like that to happen. I know that Councilmember Mendel was out and we were on a deadlock for multiple votes. So hopefully give Costco another shot at it.
So I guess I'll just ask if I can see, we're going to do a show of hands on this. Who is willing to support that request to bring that item back, which we decided not that long ago. I don't remember, and with one of our council members missing. So I'm seeing Council Member Zermeño. I'm not seeing 4 council members. Councilmember Marquez. Okay. I don't think I am.
I'm open to it, Mayor.
Oh, okay. Then I am seeing 4 council members. Myself, Council Member Zermeño, Council Member Wahab, and Council Member Marquez. So does that satisfy the staff, the city?
This is the first step. So this is the informal, and then we would have an item on potentially the consent calendar for September 22nd to take the actual vote to reconsider the item. Then it would be noticed for a public hearing in October.
Okay.
And Mayor, just to add to it, I do want to say that Costco has reached out to me. They were going to incorporate some more green, aspects of the plan and some traffic mitigation. And this is a huge revenue generating business for the city of Hayward.
All right. Well, we will be hearing it again. So thank you for bringing it forward. And with that, are there any other Councilmember Marquez?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that the public is, I don't want to get into a discussion, but when we had that item, there was also a discussion point with regard to looking at a moratorium on gas stations. So if, I think Alex, I don't know if he's still on the call, but the Sustainability Committee will be looking into that. So just for the public to be aware that that discussion, if this moves forward, it will go hand in hand. And when this comes back to us for the actual vote to bring it back on consent calendar, can you please include some of that context just so we're very clear and consistent with the conversation we had back in July? Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Lambden?
Thank you. I would add one additional ask to that, which is because that was a multi-motion vote, it's my understanding that the person who asked for reconsideration has to have been in the majority. There's some rules about that, and that probably was already looked at, and Councilmember Wahab probably already had that conversation with the city attorney, but just to double check.
Yeah, it just has to be someone who was on the opposing side of the application.
Well, it had to be actually the supporting side of the application, or the supporting basically the motion that won. Somebody from that group had to be the person who asked for reconsideration, and because we didn't have that anyway, I'm just not tonight to debate it.
Yes, we'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that.
Austin, are you with us?
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Because there were multiple 3-3 motions, there was no prevailing side, and so staff determined that the motions failed. And under the council's procedural rules, which defaults to Robert's rules, what we're really considering here is a motion to renew. And that's what the council would be voting on next week. A motion to renew, which if it achieves 4 votes would then be scheduled to resume the public hearing from July 14th. We did consider a motion for reconsideration, which does typically require someone who voted on the prevailing side to be able to make a motion. And so this is not technically a motion to reconsider.
It's a renewal. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. Sorry to extend the conversation, but I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
I'm going to accept that is the ruling of the city attorney, and that we'll move forward in that vein.
And then I actually had an announcement, if I could, really quick. So thank you, Madam City Manager, for bringing up the census. Absolutely. Please complete that. And that's dollars that don't cost us anything to bring into our city, just sitting out there on the table. So complete the census, bring in those dollars to our community. And then following this, once the census is completed, then one of the things that will happen is redistricting, not in Hayward, we're an at-large city, but in the county. And right now, and in 2011, there was less public input. People were concerned about public input and transparency earlier this evening. There was less of that in the redistricting process. And so there has been a community petition launched about making sure that the redistricting process at the county is really inclusive. And if you'd like more information about that, you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to the League of Women Voters, or check out change.org/ALCO, ALCO, redistricting, or redistricting is the word. So change.org, ALCO, redistricting. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Councilmember Mendel.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick question for the city manager. You mentioned the census response rate of 70% of people filling it out on their own. And did I understand right that 90% of the remaining 30% have been reached? And so that puts us at a 97% total response rate? Is that?
It's not tracked that way on the census's website. They only track the self-reporting rate. So they haven't officially announced what our response rate is, but it's the self-report rate that they post on the website for some reason. But and that data about how many additional folks that they've reached is something they've shared with staff, as I understand it, and is not necessarily on any of the websites anywhere. So yes, but that's. Yeah.
So yes, but it's not an official number.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, but still 97%. That's hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And then I just wanted to mention that we have a lot of This is not political. We have a lot of elections coming up, and the League of Women Voters of the Eden area is holding a number of candidate forums that are just open to anyone, and they are, they're nonpartisan, unaffiliated. They're not taking positions. It's just an open forum. All this week for, San Leandro Council, Hayward Council, the Castro Valley School Board, the Eden Area Township, Hard Board, Hayward School Board. And you can go, it's all this week, every night this week. And you can go to my.lwv.org /California/Eden-area to find that list and to sign up for individual forums. Just a great chance to hear from local candidates, which sometimes can be a little difficult for folks to hear from because we're all, the news is just covering the national race. So I'd encourage people to sign on to those forums. Thank you.
Do you happen to know, or does anybody happen to know whether those forums will be available to view online if you're not able to tune in for the actual forum?
I think they're going to be recorded, Mayor, and then shared later on YouTube or the League of Women Voters website. And the candidate forum for the City of Hayward is on Thursday, September 24th at 6:30.
Okay. Council member, I see Council member Zarmeña's hand raised on here, and then I'll go to Council member Salinas.
Simply to remind everybody that today marks the beginning of the National Hispanic Heritage Month, and that at midnight today in Mexico City, well, they're probably having it right now, it's 2-hour difference, they're celebrating the Declaration of Independence of Mexico and most of the Central American republics. Viva la Independencia, 1810.
Gracias for that. And I know we're missing the mariachi festival this year, so
yeah, it would have been this Friday.
Things this year, aren't we? Council member Salinas.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the note on the census. And while we are having, a good turnout, I just peeked at the website. The 94544 zip code is still one of the areas that's the lowest counted. So if you live in the 94544 zip code, and particularly the neighborhood that is the lowest counted, it is the corridor it's the Gadding-Patrick corridor between Harder and Tennyson. So it's the Huntwood, it's the Schaefer Road, Tyrell, Mannon, Lake Tig, Gadding corridor. So if you live on those streets or any of the courts or side streets, please do your census. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wahab, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted some clarity from our city manager in regards to the moratorium. That was not necessarily part of the motion, so I just wanted to understand exactly what. That's the subcommittee reviewing it, correct?
Yeah. So what I understood, or I heard the request is that we would just encompass a discussion of that the council in July discussed a moratorium on future gas stations, but that would be coming back to Sustainability Committee for a discussion in the future. But that just to provide that context in the report on the 22nd about the Costco gas station.
Okay, but it's not necessarily going to be tied to this, right?
No, that was not my understanding of what the request was.
All right.
If I may, Mayor, just very briefly.
Go ahead, yeah.
That discussion of the moratorium is already scheduled for, I believe, the November Sustainability Committee meeting.
We'll put the date of that meeting in the staff report on the 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, then I'll just add that I wanted to thank actually Councilmember Salinas, you talked about the 94544 zip code area, and I do know that Councilmember Marquez and maybe others were involved in a caravan sometime in the past few weeks since we've been gone. in that area to try to raise interest. I hope all of us have signs on our lawns about, that those wonderful drawings, I guess, by kids in the area that, urging people to, to fill out the census. So I hope that we can finish this and get ourselves fully reported. I also wanted to note that one of the things I've done in the last few weeks is my husband and I have been volunteering out at the food distribution site at Chabot. Now it's been moved from where it had been at Sky West to the Chabot campus. And it has been quite an experience, and it does involve many volunteers every week, Thursday mornings, to distribute that food as 5 lines of cars it's exceeded 600 cars the times that I have been there distributing the food. We're getting wonderful donations. Not only, of course, the Alameda County Food Bank has supplied a lot of the food, but we've also gotten donations from other people in the community, including Columbus Foods. And, it varies each week what food we have, but, it's a little heartbreaking to see how much need there is and that people are willing to wait long lines to get. Maybe sometimes by the end of the line, we've just got boxes of produce left, but that helps feed people. So anyway, I wanted to mention that and thank all the people who have volunteered to do that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And I want to adjourn this meeting tonight with thoughts, first of all, in memory of all of those who have lost their lives in the past few weeks from the horrible fires that are occurring elsewhere in our state and out here in the West. And just adjourn the meeting also with an expression of hope for a favorable change in the weather with a lot less fire and smoke and a lot more clean, breathable air. So with that, until next week, September 22nd, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.